Okay, so I had the pleasure of visiting the Martini Bar at Hawksmoor St Pancras last night for the first time. It's an amazing space.
It's really beautiful, huh?
Mm,
Yeah, we're really, really proud of it. I mean, to be honest with you, we inherited what was a pretty stunning space in the first place.
yeah,
So kind of hard to screw up. I'm allowed to swear, aren't
you
I?
can
Yeah.
definitely fucking
Okay.
swear.
Okay. Cool. Kind of hard to fuck it up.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's just what a beautiful space to sit and have a drink.
yeah,
And I think like definitely feels like the central gravity of London's going out has sort of shifted a little bit towards that King's Cross area. So it just feels
yeah.
like the right place, the right time, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, because was that Coal Drop Yard or something?
Coal Drops Yard is
Yeah,
sort of behind. It's what used to be this kind of really where all the nightclubs used to be in the kind
yeah,
of 90s and noughties. Like places that were open till sort of 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. It's places me and you would never be seen dead, obviously. Um, and they sort of repurposed it, and it's quite sort of Google land now. And the
yeah.
Guardian's there, and the Central St Martin's is there,
That's right.
and lots of like the good end of like group restaurants. The sort of
Mm.
Barrafinas and the Bows of the world are sort of in there. So it's great, and I think like that building, as you saw yesterday. I mean, it's like it's such a the houses St Pancras. It's a beautiful setting for a bar and a restaurant.
Well, I mean, I said to you last night, I think quietly that's one of the most beautiful buildings in London.
Yeah,
It's just because it's not like on Trafalgar Square or near Buckingham Palace, it probably gets missed a little bit.
totally. It was what we found out recently. One of my colleagues, Lewis, was doing like some he watched like late night YouTube videos during the opening. I think we're a bit scarred and was unable to sleep. And it was derelict for like most of the post-war period. So from like the 40s to the 80s, I think it was just completely empty. And then it got famously resurrected with the Spice Girls wannabe video that was filmed on
That's
the
right.
staircase.
Someone was telling me this last night at the event I was at, was saying, because I'd said I'd been to
Yeah,
Samagas, they were saying how, yeah, Wannabe was filmed there on the staircase.
yeah, yeah. So we get a lot of people who want to come and see.
So there was that at the beginning of the revival.
That was, I think, the beginning of the revival, and then it got kind of redone when they redid the St Pancras station when Eurostar came.
Yeah.
And then I think that just ended up sweeping the whole. There's a hotel in there with residences, and I think one by one that Marcus Waring had a restaurant in our spot for a while. Yeah, it's just I don't have a favorite restaurant, but at the moment it's my
Yeah.
golden
It's the
child.
new
Yeah,
one that always the
yeah.
favourite,
So
really, basically.
yeah, kind of, yeah. The new one, sort of the one that
Yeah.
gets the most attention for sure. Anyway,
So that is the latest one. How many restaurants is Hawksmoor on now?
so this was number 14. And we're doing number 15 in Boston this year
Mm.
in September. So yeah, it's growing. I mean, we don't go at a massive pace. Like I think we, basically sort of do one a year ish,
Yeah.
which feels about right and kind of feels like a kind of nice organic growth. But all of a sudden, you turn around, we've doubled in size since COVID, and that is crazy. Because when I
Wow.
started this job, we had 8, almost all in London, and now it's 14, seems to be 15 in 3 countries, and it's just changed the complexion of the job, changed the complexion of the company in lots of ways. Largely positive, but it can be quite challenging as well.
What was the decision to do the Martini Bar at St Pancras?
Well, there was a bar there already, a place called the Gothic Bar that I went to a couple of times. It was I mean, looked not a million miles away. We've done some sort of cosmetic changes with furniture and stuff, and so it was natural to want to put a bar in there. And then the martini element came. We've been doing a lot of stuff with martinis generally over the last few years, particularly in the States. It's kind of what we've become known for.
Mm.
And I've been sort of badgering Will, our CEO, for ages about kind of pushing it more. And I think when we saw that space, I think it was him actually who was like, this would make a great martini bar. And the funny thing is, we've had 3 or 4 sort of sub Hawksmoor diffusion things over the last 10 or so years. And we've spent like the amount of time we've spent like arguing over names, like just insane, like lists and lists. Hugh, one of the co-founders, will just send like a list of like 100 names. And it's like, it's hard naming stuff, right? You've had to name 2
Yeah.
kids and several bars and all the rest of it. Like it's a hard thing to do. How did you come across the Tristan Stevenson podcast? No, but I think like the Martini Bar, we were so also relieved to like just have a decision made. And then it's also quite refreshing having a name that informs the offer.
Yes.
So we knew that was going to be the focal point. Obviously, there's lots of stuff around it, but it also kind of led to the service style and the vibe in there as well.
Mm.
So yeah, it was by far the easiest thing we've ever named.
Yeah. And I mean, Martini has some cachet at the moment, doesn't it? It feels like it's quite an in drink. I know that's a bit lame to say, and
Yeah.
sort of never really disappeared. A lot of people, I'm someone who drinks martinis regularly, and it's never gone out of fashion for me. But it does feel like it's more on people's radar now than it has been previously.
Oh, no, massively. I can't remember who I was talking to the other day. We were saying that if 20 years ago you told us that martinis and Negronis would be like two of the most popular drinks, we would have, laughed our head off at that suggestion. Like, it was just crazy. But I think it definitely, I mean, I remember being in New York just before we opened there, and you could sort of see it really starting to happen, in a big time. That obviously New York's always been a big martini town, but the mania, I guess, around that specific cocktail and the weird versions of it that were popping up all over the place. And sometimes, not always, that wave kind of crashes over here. And I think at the moment there is definitely, it kind of comes from how I see it, sort of coming from two angles. You have the sort of dive bar £8 martinis that are happening a lot in East London, which are great. And I think it's probably introducing a whole new generation of drinkers to, an awesome drink that's really fun, and it's very, cool to photograph. It looks awesome, and it's quite frivolous and a bit naughty. And then on the other side you have, these kind of cathedrals of martinis, the Connaughts and the Savoys and all these places where you pay £30 upwards. And interesting that, like, it's sort of getting it from both sides. And I think what we've tried to do is sit somewhere in the middle of that Venn diagram. So something that is something people could enjoy every day, but also is done to like a really, really high standard.
Yeah, it is an interesting one, the martini. I mean, I love them, but it's often, I think, hard to grasp exactly what it is that is the allure. There's definitely something a bit naughty about it because it is largely neat spirit.
Yeah.
It's strong. It's sort of like a gentrified shot in a way, isn't it?
I was thinking about a friend of mine who prefers to roast potatoes as one big shit chip, but one big great shot, I guess, the martini.
Great shot.
I think there is very few drinks that make you feel something in a way the martini makes you feel something. It's like a punctuation point to your day. I think the Negroni, maybe, I don't love Negronis if I'm honest, but I think it does the same thing, which makes you feel quite kind of, debonair and quite classy. Whereas a martini is like, my day's done. no more work chat. I'm having a good time now. And it's also, I mean, it's just a very sophisticated, delicious way to imbibe. Yeah.
I mean, it's a signaling thing as well, isn't it? Because there is a sort of like aspirational component to it. It says that I'm a connoisseur of this drink. I can handle the strength of it. I understand the complexities and the nuance of this thing. Negroni is the same in that respect.
Yeah.
Well, but because Negroni has that sort of strong, sweet, bitter thing going on, that's the additional challenge, I guess. That sort of connoisseurship.
I think there's a little bit that, like, if you're on a date with someone or you meet someone for the first time and they have a very clear martini order, like, I'm not saying that that's the only thing. They might be a total bore, but if they do have, like, if they know exactly what they want, there's something about that kind of surety of your order and having a thing that's specific to you.
A bit like with a steak, really.
That's quite sexy, I guess. Like, it's quite a cool thing to be able to do. So yeah, I think that all those things have definitely come together, and so I hope it stays for a while. Never still doing the right way. Yeah, exactly.
Because the other thing is gin, and this goes for sort of martinis and Negronis, obviously had this sort of massive sort of time in the sun about 10 years ago where it was really kind of peaking, loads of brands coming through, some really great new entrants to the category, and some of them thankfully still around, like, for example, Hepper, which I know you work quite closely with. But the gin craze has sort of died off. People have come a little bit disenfranchised with it. We had the whole sort of sweet gin liqueur thing. It's not to say that gin has gone away completely, but and I don't know the sales data, but I would imagine gin sales have dropped a bit. But yet the Martini and Negroni are still there, and obviously they're gin cocktails.
Yeah. I mean, I think the boom for gin, it's like any bubble, right? Like, it went so far so it was going to burst at some point because there was too many brands out there, too many, dare I say, bad brands out there that were making bad liquid.
Yeah.
I guess, as well, one of the things about making gin is you can do it very quickly and very cheaply.
And very badly.
And very badly, yeah, totally. So obviously everyone, everyone with, a still and 5 minutes, or not even a still, you just go and get someone to do it for you. You can put, put the name of your city on it or whatever you want to do, and it's out there very, very quickly, and that's going to burst, right? And what you're left with, I think, now is some really solid brands, some great drinks that are going to carry it. And given that people are now looking for value more and more, I think gin is it might not it's never going to go back to the same level, but it's going to stick around because it's a good value spirit when you compare it to, agave, for example, or, good quality American whiskey or Scotch. It's you can make good drinks for not too much money with it, which I think at the moment is pretty important.
Yeah. What's it like running a bar program across multiple cities and indeed countries and continents? What do you look for in terms of consistency, and how do you switch it up for the local market?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a really good question. I think I've definitely been guilty in the past of trying to overthink this a little bit and really sort of leaning too far into trying to do something that's very, very appealing and fits in with a local market. That, albeit, I would say, really understanding the city you're in and what people like to drink is important. We're lucky. We're a big company. We sell a lot of drinks. We sell a lot of everything, and so we have a lot of data that we can look at. And if you look at the kind of what we sell lots of across all of our sites, across certainly in the UK and Ireland, the US to a slightly lesser extent, everyone drinks kind of the same stuff everywhere. You know, the most popular cocktails, top 10 selling cocktails are the same across all those sites. In the US, people drink a lot more whiskey. They drink a lot more vodka, a lot more agave. So you adjust that slightly. But I think when you have a strong brand, you need to be quite confident in what your brand is and what that's represented through in drinks.
Yeah.
And so more and more, I'm also particularly as we're growing and having a completely different menu in 15 locations is nigh on impossible and probably not going to be very good. So yeah, I think it's not as, I think a few years ago, I used to think a lot more deeply about kind of doing something very specific for Liverpool or Edinburgh. And while we do a little bit of that, it's become more homogenous, dare I say it?
Yeah. Or I guess consistent.
Consistent. That's a much better word, isn't it?
Yeah, this is an interesting thing, because obviously you're importing a brand into these cities, and the brand is very clear with what it offers in terms of food, and I'd imagine pretty damn consistent in terms of food as well. It's going to be steak on every single menu, and various other bits that you're going to find at all the Hawksmoor restaurants. It feels like the drinks offering that you're serving is obviously tailored to pair well, if not sort of on a food pairing sort of element, but to pair with the moment of entering a Hawksmoor restaurant. And so you should be importing the same kind of drinks to every place you go. You know, if you tailor everything for Chicago to what Chicagoans, what are they called there?
Chicagoans, Chicagoans.
Ouija's. Then, you know, you're going to end up offering what other bars and restaurants are offering in Chicago, and that's not what you are.
So, I mean, I came to grips with the idea recently that we are a steakhouse, right? That's predominantly where people are coming in, and people do visit us for drinks.
You're not Market Angus Steakhouse.
Wow, shots fired early. It's only on the coffees as well. And my sort of favorite places to go and kind of watch the steakhouse experiences are places in New York and Chicago where they do these old school steakhouses brilliantly. Like, they're beautiful rooms. Everyone behind the bar is kind of in their 50s and 60s. The drinks are big and they're classic, and it kind of always
Martini glasses, like
yeah,
a glass,
absolutely. I mean, they look quite diluted, which is why those work. But everything's sort of built around that kind of steakhouse experience, and it's quite unique. It's like going to like an omakase or something like that. It's its own thing. And so with the drinks, it was like, right, okay, how do we do those drinks, but do them like as perfectly as we possibly can do them?
Yeah.
So like, what is the best old fashioned you could possibly imagine? Like, and maybe there is a bit of technique to it and it's a bit different, but as it's presented and as it tastes, it looks, feels and tastes like just a great old fashioned. And the same with martinis and, all those kinds of things. So that, I think, trying to get away a little bit from trying to make it something it's not, and really basing it in what people are there for, which is steak. And that, I think, is the most important part.
Yeah, that's interesting. That there's sort of inspiration taken from the classical steakhouses of yesteryear that are still going. Like, what's that one in New York? Is it Keen's?
Keen's. I mean, Keen's is sick. I mean, it's so good.
I was staying in a hotel recently in New York, and I was like, I recognize this street, and I literally looked out the window and I could see Keen's there. I was like, brilliant.
I mean, anyone who can walk into that room and not tell me it's like enchanting. Like, so all the pipes on the ceiling, and the bar somehow manages to be like one of the most beautiful, classy bars in the world, but also has two massive screens showing basketball behind it. You know what I mean? They just do it so well. There's a place in Chicago called Gibson's, which I've sort of been obsessed with for ages, and the drinks are, I mean, not great, to be honest with you, but the feeling of sitting there and drinking that drink is amazing. And I think separating those two things, like, not everything is just about drinks, it's about kind of how it fits into what you want that experience to be.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think if you want to make a great product, you just need to look around for someone who's getting it half right or getting bits of it right, and then you can kind of iterate and modify it and then level everything up. Looking for the ways in which you can improve different facets of it to then make a sort of optimally brilliant experience.
And that's with everyone. And I think, this massive block of wood in front of us.
That's definitely enough wood in.
That we've sort of landed on that now after kind of zigzagging through lots of different directions and there's a focus and a clarity to what we do, which the Martini Bar has really helped with. And it now means that when we open new restaurants, it's like, right, this is what we do. We do classic adjacent drinks. We specialize in martinis, bang. It's really easy to talk to people like the press about in a new city, really easy to train new team members. It's really easy when it comes to, producing menus because you know what kind of things you're looking for and you're stopping sort of thrashing around in the dark for new ideas. You've got like focus, which is great.
God, and a city must love it when they hear that Hawksmoor are coming in.
I hope so. I mean, some more than some. I won't name names. Some more than others. To be honest with you, I can name the ones that to Manchester, for example.
I was going to say in the UK it must be interesting because in the UK it's a more London centric.
I mean, wherever we go, it's a bit like there's that thing that they say to everyone outside America, Americans are Yankees. If you live in America, people from New England are Yankees. If you live in New England, people who eat apple pie for breakfast are Yankees, right? So if for outside in the UK, we're from London. Anywhere else, we're from the UK. It's like it's. So some place at Manchester was the first one we did outside London, and I think I was still working there at the time in my first stint, and I think we were genuinely really nervous that it was going to be seen as this sort of London import, and it was going to go down badly. And that city, just due to like it being very well opened and a great team, and we really kind of like ingratiated ourselves, and we were one of the first London brands, I guess, to move to Manchester. But that restaurant since day one has been like, I think, one of the best restaurants in the country.
We had dinner there, didn't we?
We had dinner, yeah.
And we tried basically every cocktail on the menu.
Yeah, some weekend that one, wasn't it? But yeah, that's that I think is like a really good example of how it's done well. New York, similarly. I mean, we had a bit of a protracted opening due to COVID, but I think also New York and London have a real kind of osmosis, cultural osmosis,
and that's way of putting it.
Yeah, so I think they really got it, and it's that restaurant has been like a big success story, and the bar there is great. So there's been some that have been a bit more challenging, but they tend to get there in the end. It just takes a little bit of time to.
How is it received in America? Because America, obviously, I would imagine, sort of considers itself the owner of the steakhouse concept, and obviously you're coming in with a UK brand. So how is that received, and how does that work?
Americans are pretty open-minded about it, and I think one of the things, if you go to Chicago, for example, where I've spent an unbelievably large amount of time over the last year. I seem to have gone like every month, but there are. Within the sort of neighborhood we're in Chicago, there's a Korean steakhouse, and there is a sort of French style steakhouse, and there's a place called Asador Bastian, which is a kind of Basque steakhouse, and they're very comfortable with kind of like, okay, this is and one of the things we actually found, we're quite sort of demure when we open. We're like, don't mind us, just trying to do things in a nice way, the right way. But a lot of people in Chicago were like, we need to know about the Britishness, and I think maybe because we as Brits, potentially certainly more on the more liberal side of things, we're quite like, oh, don't shout about being British too loudly. But actually in the States at the moment, there's a huge wave of interest in British food culture. I mean, like LA, there's a bunch of restaurants that kind of make meat pies and stuff. It's bizarre, but I think St John obviously blazed a bit of a trail, and that interest has sort of come back again now. So we're now sort of shouting about our Britishness a little bit louder when we go, albeit using American beef because yeah.
So what is it about Hawksmoor that's British in an American setting? What sets it apart from an American steakhouse? Given that all your staff are going to be American, of course. And
I mean, the drinks program sort of is, I guess, has a nod to. I think if the honest to God answer is, in Chicago when we opened, not a vast amount, and I think that was the issue. It lacked a little bit of identity when we opened, and people wanted to see that. So we really started homing in on the food side on things like Sunday roast, which is a bit of a novelty for a lot of Americans, and people love it, and it's really popular, really busy. And on the drink side, I've always, I think probably because of my age, I've always had this real deep ingrained love for kind of early noughties London cocktails, brambles, espresso martini, match spring punches, all these things that we kind of grew up with. So East Egg hold ups, those kind of things. And so we opened a bar on the second floor that was sort of very much aimed at that style. So kind of, turn of the century London drinking, quite, drinks that are good for drinking, not drinks that you sit there for ages kind of like contemplating. And we throw great parties up there, and it's really fun. And people do respond to it. But I think the big lesson in the States is don't be afraid to kind of be a bit louder, a bit brasher about who you are in a way that you maybe wouldn't hear.
Yeah. Chicago's a cool city, right? I've only been there once, but I really liked it.
I love Chicago. I mean, I've managed to avoid the kind of polar vortex winter months so far.
Right.
I'm like, it's not really much.
Lake freeze.
Yeah, exactly. Not great, but
It looks like that movie Day After Tomorrow.
yeah, it's. I mean, apparently one of my colleagues, she's quite diminutive, told me that she left the airport. She tried to breathe in, and she felt her lungs freezing up. I was just like, oh god, I don't think that's for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chicago's awesome. It's very cool. In some ways, it's much bigger, but it reminds me of Manchester a little bit. Sort of friendly but tough. Similar kind of architecture. It's sort of it's big. Sort of explosion. Its boom was a similar time to Manchester. So you get these kind of big, solid, sort of warehousey type buildings, and people are lovely. And there's a really proud independent food scene there. Charlie Trotter comes from there. There's some brilliant bars. I'm sure we'll talk about some of them later on, but a wonderful bar scene, great people, and very different from, like, feels very distinctive from New York in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely up and coming.
That, my friends, is the sound of bright citrus rising. Fever Tree's Mexican lime soda. Inside, Tahitian lime pressed whole. Oil from the peel, juice from the flesh. Nothing is wasted. Plus yuzu from Japan, where the trees take 10 years to bear fruit and every single one is picked by hand. It's carbonated hard on soft British spring water with fine bubbles that hold. Pour it over ice and drink it neat. That is the real test after all. It's zesty, sharp, faintly floral, and clean enough to stand on its own. Or build on it. Pour it along with tequila for a twist on a paloma, over ice with a squeeze of lime for a ranch water, and a highball that actually says something. Fever Tree Mexican lime soda, mixed with the best. Now let's get back to the show. How does recruitment work? Because one of the things that I've always thought about Hawksmoor since day dot is the teams that you get are just incredible. Like, really passionate, motivated, the right sort of balance between professional and informal, very knowledgeable. Just it seems like they're happy to be there and excited to talk about the food and the drink. How does that work from a recruitment point of view, and then down through the training and
Yeah. So I if I'm honest, I don't get involved in recruitment a huge amount now. But we've got an amazing recruitment team who do a lot of that. But I also have this guy called Lewis Coburn, who he's like our head of bars in the UK and Ireland. So runs the show at kind of an operational level, and he's the closest thing I've ever come in the bar world to like a football agent. He's unbelievable. He's
transfer windows,
man, like Fabrizio Romano. But he's sort of he's a real sort of bit of a wheeler dealer, and he's really good at kind of moving people around our restaurants to make sure that they're kind of nicely balanced and they've got a good managers in each one, and who sort of needs a bit of attention. And then he's also really good at kind of he's got his ear to the ground in the sort of wider industry when he finds out there's good people who are available or maybe looking. And just does a really good job in kind of like the aftercare of that and making sure that they're happy. We've got a guy called Dan Garnell, who you know very well. He's come to work with us at the Martini Bar, and very, very rarely do we recruit someone at that level for bar. We usually promote from within,
right? Yeah.
But then finding that person and bringing them in and making sure that they fit our culture, which with Dan was super easy. But yeah, it's
serious about martinis, obviously.
Serious about martinis, exactly. But I mean, in general, it's a as a company that we've been, I forget the exact number, but I think it's in the top 100 for like 14 years in a row of small companies to work, small to medium sized companies to work for in the UK. And there's a lot that goes into that, right? It's not just filling in a form, and that runs all the way down from CEO down to KP, and you kind of feel that culture. It's a really well operated, well run company by nice people, and it's very hard. I mean, you stick out like a sore thumb if you're an arsehole. There have been some arseholes in the past, but they tend to get moved on quite quickly. So yeah, I think it's when you see the whole, we have our general managers have been with us for 15, 16, 17 years.
Wow.
It's once people come, they tend to stay for quite a long time if they fit.
You employ me as a bartender tomorrow. What does my first day look like? How does the training go? And where am I being positioned? And
we leave quite a lot of autonomy down to the individual bar managers, but by and large, what you do is you'd probably spend the first week on the floor learning about food, learning about mise en place, kind of maybe even running food from the kitchen, so that you kind of understand its part in the ecosystem of the restaurant. They are fundamentally, I mean, as a bar director, I'm very happy to kind of can see they are restaurants first and foremost. And I
Yeah.
think understanding where we fit into that is super important. I think where our restaurants are their best when everyone is working very well together as a team. You know, it's the Martini Bar you were in yesterday. The logistics of making that work from terrace to bar to restaurant to kitchen, all in different places. It takes a lot of kind of good teamwork. So you need to understand how the whole building works. It's not just about the drinks.
Yeah, I guess I mean, it's one of the things, I guess, that sort of set Hawksmoor apart from the start was it took drinks, not just wine, but mixed drinks seriously.
Yeah.
And that time, that was kind of unusual in fact, it was very unusual for a restaurant to be doing that.
Yeah. Did you go to the first one when Nick was there?
Never when Nick was there, no. Because so first one was Spitalfields.
First one was Spitalfields. And Nick, obviously, Nick Strangeway.
Friend of the pod.
Whoever want to know. Sporter of the most intense beard I've seen in some years.
I mean, yeah.
But I think I remember being a very, very young, very, very very early 20s bartender when the first one opened, and we sort of got wind, and it was really, it was a very odd place.
I've got 2006 written.
2006, yeah. I was talking to journalist Alice Lassells the other day, and she said she remembered she remembered the opening. She could still smoke inside, so that's how long ago it was. It was very weird, like why have they opened there? And that street, which is now kind of got kind of an All Saints on it, and is quite fancy coffee shops.
Yeah.
And that was like the edge. That felt like the edge of the known world.
Commercial road,
commercial street. Yeah. So we sort of heard this place had opened, and it was sort of around the same time Green and Red opened as well up the road, which is also same owners.
Yeah.
But it was it was quite a strange place, and Nick was obviously this sort of very revered guy, and it was very clear very early on that they were taking this super seriously. And then I joined when they opened Seven Dials, which was the second one in Covent Garden, when Pete Geary had sort of taken the helm.
2010.
Yeah. And again, there was just this, for me, who'd grown up in cocktail bars, working in this restaurant where people come in and sit at the bar, eat £100 porterhouse, drink 3 old fashions and martinis, whatever. It felt very novel. Felt like, and at that point, there wasn't really anything like that in London. Maybe Quo Vadis a little bit, but it was quite sort of separate between the bar and restaurant. So very cool. And you think now that sort of happens everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Every restaurant worth its salt has a great bar in it.
So you joined, then you left, then you went back.
I
right?
did.
So let's go through that. When did you join?
2010. I did sort of a stint as a bartender, worked my way up to general manager. So that was a very fast ascent, just for posterity. Then we did like a kind of little sort of diffusion brand that was kind of Hawksmoor Light, I guess it was called Foxlow.
That's right.
Which was some neighborhoody versions of it. Opened a few of those, and then I decided
I went to there was one in Balham, I think.
Balham, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Balham, Chiswick, Stoke Newington, and Clerkenwell. And then I think I sort of had my time of, I really wanted to open my own place. That was what I wanted to do, and I had that in my mind since I was sort of quite young, that was something I wanted to try and do. And so I think I felt that I was going to get stuck in working in this company, and there was probably a ceiling to my ambitions working with them.
Yeah.
And I thought I was ready to do it because I'd learnt the back of house stuff. I was pretty good at kind of the mechanics of running a restaurant.
And opened a few restaurants with them.
I'd opened some restaurants, and I was 32, 33 at the time, so I kind of felt like
good age.
Good age, the right level of experience and
young enough
energy.
to still be motivated, but old enough to learn a few things.
Totally, and you still have that energy. You still kind of are prepared to kind of do a 15, 16-hour shift if you need to.
Yeah.
God, I wonder what that would look like if I had to do it now. Not pretty at all. So yeah, I think that was the first stint.
Yeah. So, what restaurant did you open?
Wow. Did you ever come to Bad Sports? Did you?
Yeah,
I was thinking this.
A few times. I mean, I remember because we didn't really become friends until you opened Bad Sports. not because I was waiting for you to open a restaurant.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't be friends with this guy.
It's bronky.
Oh, you're working at Hawksmoor. Now he's got his own taco joint.
Now.
No, I remember because you opened that about the same time we opened Sack, the sherry bar.
Yes, it was about the same time. Yeah, and Three Sheets opened around the same time.
Yeah, that's right.
It
was a good era for openings around here, and
all that free interest-free money that was flowing around the economy at that point, which was more of that and none, I think. Yeah.
And I came up with, I think it was with Barry Wilson actually. We came and had tacos. I was like, oh my God, this place is amazing. Like just great sort of cantina vibe.
Yeah.
But with quite modernist takes on tacos.
Yeah.
Like I remember having the cheeseburger taco. I was like, this is one of the
Good
tastiest
one.
things I've
I
ever
miss, I
eaten.
miss those. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. And then because you had the bar downstairs as well, didn't
The
you?
bar downstairs was the original plan. So there was 4 of us really, and then we had a guy called, I don't know if you ever came across Andy Bird. He was one of the partners of Happiness Forgets, and he was a bit of like he knew all the landlords in East London. He was a bit of a sort of fixer. But the 4 of us all really wanted to do this sports bar. Basically, we loved American sports, and we loved the vibe when you went to a really good kind of, I'm not going to use the word dive because I think it's quite lame when people talk about opening a dive bar, but going to like a good sports bar in, New York or LA or somewhere like that. Will, one of our partners, had been living in Miami, and you could just feel like utterly comfortable. It's like the American version of a pub, right? You can sit there, you can be whoever you want.
Yeah.
You meet characters. It's very intergenerational, a bit strange. People smoke inside, that kind of thing. And we really wanted to try and do something like that, but also something that there was a lot of very highly gentrifying stuff happening in Hackney at that point. So places opening, natural wine bars that were charging kind
Sega
of
and Wild.
places like that, which was amazing. Marito, that was definitely not at the price point that the local community could afford. And so we wanted to try and do a bar that felt like
This is Hackney Road, right?
Hackney Road.
Yeah.
People younger people who lived in Hackney could actually afford to come to on a regular basis, and pay. Well, turns out pay nothing for drinks, quite a lot. But so we found this spot that was an old nightclub called Dallas Steakhouse, because apparently the Turkish owner looked like J.R. Ewing, which is amazing. And then above it there was a kebab shop, and we were like, the lease was for the whole place, so we were like, well, we're gonna have to do a food of some kind. And I think it was quite sort of, London was going through its sort of burgery moment, sort of like that barbecue a bit.
Yeah,
and none of us were particularly excited or interested by doing burgers or barbecue.
everywhere the smell of smoked things.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we'd all of us had either lived or spent quite a lot of time in the US or Mexico, and we were at that point there wasn't really a huge amount going on in the kind of Mexican food scene, but none of us really knew anything about the food. So Dom, one of my business partners, sort of vaguely knew a guy called Nuno Mendes, who's a sort of multi Michelin, a bit of a godfather to like the young chefs of East London, particularly. And we sort of managed to talk him into helping us develop some recipes for this Mexican place. So I used to go around to Nuno's apartment on Friday afternoons, and he'd like show me how to cook Mexican food, which is unbelievable.
I didn't know that.
And actually, like, to this day, most of the things that I know, when I'm cooking at home, a lot of the stuff comes from those sort of Friday afternoons, just like learning at his, learning it. So learning.
You were cooking a lot in Bad Sports.
I was a
weren't you?
bloody chef because
Yeah.
we couldn't really find a head chef, and we sort of surprise, no serious head chefs wanted to come work for us, right? But we had this guy. So we had 2. Sorry, this is probably a bit long-winded.
No,
we had the guy called Matt Scott, who's an amazing Scottish guy from Dundee, who I'd worked with at Bao, the Taiwanese place.
Yes, that's right. Did you do consultancy on that place?
I know. I sort of worked for them for a very brief period of time, and it wasn't for me. The great, amazing restaurant, unbelievable, but it wasn't the
Like
right
Charlotte Street direction.
Yeah, there's one there.
Yeah.
I think that's closed down. They got one in Soho. They're like geniuses.
Yeah.
But Matt was like this very foodie, very good cook, and we eventually made him head chef. But he was awesome, and he was really kind of pushed everything forward there and kept the place clean and kept me in check mostly. But then, honestly, like a week before we opened, we were like, we haven't got any chefs, and we were kind of all fretting about it. And there's this knock on the door, and I shit you not, these 3 huge Mexican guys were like going around Hackney Road handing out their CVs looking for a chef.
No way.
Their names were Jesus, and Mario, and they were from Michoacan, and they were like the loveliest guys in the world. And they had another guy called Oscar who became our KP, and they were like, we were like, we'll take you all. And they honestly, they were with us pretty much the whole time. One of them unfortunately had to leave halfway through, but they were sort of the engine room of the kitchen.
Wow.
They also brought us loads of recipes from Mexico that
Yeah.
were kind of, absolutely delicious, and just like, I mean, we couldn't have done it without those guys. But
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that's why the food was good. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
it
those
really
4
was.
guys.
It was great. The whole needing to get in the kitchen because you can't find anyone else sounds very familiar.
You've done that.
I've done that twice. So the first time was Dak and Sons, the hot dog place we had in.
Yeah, I remember that place.
In Hampstead.
Yeah.
Which, funnily enough, going to name drop here. I was talking to John Terroir about last night because he used to come in there and eat.
Congratulations, by the way, on your
Thank you very
award.
much. Oh, thank you. Oh, are we going to talk about me?
Yeah, we're going to talk about
that.
the incurious bartender.
Joe McKenna calls me the bi-curious bartender. So I was talking to John Terroir last night, as you do, because his wife, he had his first date, he told me last night, at Dack and
No
Sons
way.
in Hampstead, because I remember him coming in, because obviously
I would have
quite
thought,
recognisable.
he'd have gone a bit more bougie than that.
He said to me, it's because I love hot dogs.
Yeah.
And I would have cooked those hot dogs, and not only would I cook those hot dogs, I would have made the sausages as well,
Did you
because
make the sausages?
this is the problem with that place.
Oh my God,
is
it's just
I went all in.
That
Do
doesn't sound like you.
No, I know. I think I just finished writing the first Curious Bartender book, so I was very much into and modernist cuisine. You know, the massive sort of tome of a series of books had just come out. I was so into sort of science of food and cooking at that time.
Mr. Harold McGee Jr. over
Exactly,
here.
yeah. And so I was like, we're going to do a hot dog restaurant. I guess we must have partly been inspired by PDT. Though it wasn't like PDT, because there was a speakeasy bar upstairs as well, and we were doing American food and stuff. But
in no way inspired.
no, but no, it's right, yeah. But really quite different in terms of actual execution. And I was like, we're gonna make our own sausages. And it was a burger moment in London.
yeah.
I was like, you know what's better than a burger? A fucking good hot dog, right? So we did all these different types of sausages, and we were doing like emulsified sausages for like Frankfurter style things and everything, right faff. And we were doing like sort of almost like chorizo style sausages, and then more sort of English stuff, all these different types of sausages. We had meat grind, everything. Like we're grinding the meat and then filling the sausages. It was so much of a faff, like every sausage we made, probably like the cost of ingredients was like 30p, but the cost of labor was about £3.
They're having there's a kid in South, I can't remember what his name is, but he's doing like kind of Polish style sausages, but kind of modern versions. And they look, so I think maybe you're ahead of your time.
Yeah, maybe, because you know Bubble Dogs opened around about the same time as well, which I never actually went there.
It was actually really good.
Is it good? Yeah,
good.
champagne hot dogs, right?
What's not to love?
What's not to love? Yeah. So anyway, I ended up because it was, how do you recruit someone who's like sort of a butcher, but also is going to sous vide sausages, right? Well, you don't. You just do it yourself. Yeah.
I can imagine that was quite therapeutic in a way, though.
Yeah. So a hand looks like.
You didn't have to do that. But...
And anyway, I mean, it got to the point where I remember I was working every single shift because we couldn't find people to work for us. We had this chef that we brought in who turned out, unfortunately, to be an alcoholic. And I had to go to Tales of the Cocktail because I had this cocktail book out, and I was doing seminars, and I was like, I got to go to Tales of the Cocktail in 2 weeks. We're going to have to close the restaurant unless we
like we're in rural France. So I'd say we're gone for 3 weeks.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how we monitored it, but anyway, that place ended up closing after a year or so. But mainly, I don't think it was really the product. People loved it.
Yeah.
It was the place. Like Hampstead's so difficult because it's really busy at the weekend.
Yeah.
Everyone goes up there, but in the weekdays, there's no one there.
Yeah.
You know? It's and then anyway, the same thing happened. Not to go on about my career, but the same thing happened when
love to find out all about what happens.
Then when we opened Surfside down in Cornwall, the seafood restaurant again, I was like, we haven't managed to recruit any chef.
Yeah.
So I was head chef there for the first year and a half, basically killing and cooking lobsters and cooking a lot of steaks.
Yeah.
Well, I got pretty good at cooking steaks, and killed. I must have killed a few thousand lobsters.
It's really bad. It doesn't feel great.
It doesn't feel great. No, it doesn't. I used to dream about lobsters, like coming up off the beach, coming to get
They're
them.
still quite human, aren't
Yeah,
they? I don't know. Like, it doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good.
So anyway, that was the last time and it will be the last time I ever at a restaurant. Do you know what? There's times where I've thought, do you know what? It would be an interesting project to open up a really high-end concept restaurant in a location in Cornwall and just see if I could do sort of Michelin standard food.
Yeah. But do you know how much that would cost?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's like life saving. That's like your,
Well, yeah, and at the
thing.
time it would cost, right? Because you'd end up doing 16-hour days every single.
Run all those super marathons.
Wouldn't be able to do all of that. Certainly wouldn't be able to do a podcast. Yeah. Wouldn't have any enthusiasm for talking to anyone, probably. So it'd be a nightmare. But you know what? Sometimes it's sounds a bit like you with bad sports. Sometimes you've got an idea about something you want to do, and you've got to scratch that itch and try it. And if it's better that you do it and it doesn't work than you never actually cross that threshold and try it.
The problem is the plan. The best. I mean, there's that famous Mike Tyson quote where everyone's got plans until they get punched in the face. And I think like that never was more true in my life than when we did bad sports, right? Like, so first of all, there was 4 of us, all of whom were on the kind of creative end of the spectrum rather than the kind of organized, analytical, operational end. So all had sort of relatively sort of competing views. All of us worked there to greater or lesser extents as well, which meant that if you worked there the most, you felt like you had the most. And we all got on. There was, but when you start off with not a huge amount of money and then that quickly dwindles to nothing, and you're living week to week, it becomes it's not the thing that you dreamed of it being.
Yeah.
And it's very funny how quickly you forget all those lessons you learned when you're working for a very well organized company with an accounts department and an HR department and all these things, and you're responsible for other people's livelihoods, and it suddenly becomes, very, very real. I think like that weird juxtaposition between the daytimes when we were all very, very stressed, and then the weekends and evenings where I genuinely think still to this day that there's few places I can think of in the world where if you turned up on a Friday or Saturday night, you were guaranteed, 100% guaranteed that you were going to have a good time. You would meet someone interesting, something weird would happen. There'd be like an Alsatian in the toilet cubicle or something. Like there was always something strange going on there, but it was like, there'd be people dancing downstairs, and there'd be like people fighting over the decks, and you go outside the front, and there'd be people like having a game of football on the street outside, and someone would have got into the kitchen and would be making quesadillas at 3 o'clock in the morning, and like it was just chaos everywhere. But like as much as that was not very business oriented, and you can't really do that anymore, there's something really beautiful about that chaos. It was like it felt really unique, and I think people still sort of come up to us and say like, oh God, that sounds quite an awful thing to say. People still come up to us, but people do. They're like, oh, it would be great to resurrect bad sports, and we obviously could never, but for that little snapshot of time, it felt like a really kind of special place.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I remember a few late nights down the bar below, very late nights on a couple of occasions.
The license was an indicator rather than like a rule.
Well, I mean, I don't think I was paying for drinks by the time they got to whatever time in the morning.
Probably less said about that, the better they go.
What if your coffee liqueur actually tasted like coffee? Not syrup, not pudding, actual specialty coffee in a glass. That's the whole idea behind Algebra, the driest coffee liqueur around. Not because they've sworn off sugar, but because they want to let the flavour of the coffee shine. And it's cracking coffee too. Carefully sourced, roasted with intent, and then blended with pure cane spirit and sugar. The result is a coffee liqueur that behaves well when other coffee liqueurs would simply give up. Want a highball with backbone? Algebra and tonic is the perfect fit. Want a Manhattan or a Negroni that doesn't drown in sweetness? Algebra is a fantastic substitute for vermouth. Or keep it classic and make an espresso martini that practically makes itself. It's the kind of bottle that deserves a place on the back bar because it does its job properly. Lift, structure, flavour, and clarity. And there's great news, because Algebra is partnering with the show. We can offer 15% off any bottles ordered through algebradrinks.com. Just use the code CURIOUS15 at checkout. Algebra coffee liqueur. Less sugar, better coffee, better drinks. Now, let's get back to the show. Yeah, I mean, you hit on an important point there. I think, obviously a lot of people have aspirations to open their own bar or restaurant at some point. A lot of people who listen to this podcast probably do. I know many people, of course, have already done that. And it's a natural kind of inclination for someone who's very creative, someone who, like yourself, someone who works in this industry and, thinks about things and thinks about design and drinks and concepts and service and wants to make something. But my advice would be you need to find someone else who can manage business operations and takes sort of pride and is motivated to think about how do we keep this organized? How do we manage budgets? How do we, keep this build on track? How do we recruit? How do we look after our teams? All of these different day-to-day, from my point of view, pretty mundane kind of things, but critical things that if you don't have that in order, you're just running off sort of the fumes of creative passion.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the problem is today, certainly in London, maybe not everywhere, the job of keeping the show on the road and the kind of the mundane parts have necessarily become so much more important than the creative bits, because definitely not want to turn into like it's so hard to run a hospital. It is, obviously, it's been well said, but you almost all you need is somebody kind of making sure that you're kind of staying in budget, and that it's tough. And I feel like 20 years ago there was room to be more creative. I mean, there's definitely cities and places in the world where you can be a little bit more creative.
Yeah, you could test stuff a bit more, and there
Yeah.
would be that like sort of safety net of, well, I tried that, it didn't work. I'm now not completely broke
Yeah.
because the cost of operating a business wasn't as extremely expensive as it is now.
And it will financially ruin you maybe for the rest of your life if you're not careful.
Yeah, it's
On that note.
yeah, on that note. No, but it is tough, and yeah, let's not labor on it too much, because it is, like you say, everyone's sort of talking about it, and it can get a bit miserable. But yeah, I do worry. I really worry for UK hospitality at the moment. I think it's in the toughest place it's ever been in my lifetime.
Do you think part of that though is, so I think about it a lot, partly because I'm aware of how tough it is, because you kind of work within those constraints all the time. Secondly, I think I'm like, the kind of the message that comes out from a lot of people in it is their public message to their potential customers is, this is really hard. And that doesn't really make me want to go to eat in their bars and restaurants, which is really sad, because that's their only voice. That's the way they can use their voice, but also it's not very, it doesn't pull you in.
Yeah.
And so you're in this kind of weird bit where you're sort of desperately trying to fight over the same people, but you're also, your only way of kind of,
Yeah, as soon as you sort of signal that your business is struggling, it then calls into question, like, right, you're saying your business is struggling, they're not. What is it about your business that means it's not doing as well as the other business? And then you start sort of doubting, well, is it because actually it's just not a great business in the first place? Why would I want to go and spend my money there if it's a struggle? Like, there is it sort of casts doubt over the operation. But as you say, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
Like, if you're really that desperate, then you're the last. It's sort of, you've got to speak up and say something.
I think so, and or close down, which is what's happened to a lot of people. And like, this is definitely not meant to sound kind of as brutal as it might come across, but we perhaps did reach peak bar and restaurant in terms of the sheer numbers. You had the Franco Mancas of the world and the Oaxacas just rolling out. No one asked for them to open 200 sites in the UK or whatever, but they went ahead and did it anyway. There wasn't the sort of supply lines in terms of people and all the rest of it to keep these to sustain these, and you see a lot of them now closing. It's a bit like gin brands. Did we swim out too far a little bit now, and now it's retreating. And what's really sad is, in amongst those big rollouts, you're then losing quite a lot of the really kind of talented, passionate independents who actually deserve to stay open.
Yeah. This is it. It's as places close, we don't get the chance to select
exactly,
close,
and they don't have the financial backing to necessarily to weather that storm. When the tide comes in, you see who's standing in the nude. It's
no, it's the independents will be the great loss, and of course, a lot of pubs fall into that category as well. And I get very protective over pubs, especially because I see them as a sort of historic part of the tapestry of British culture, which they are.
Yeah.
And when you hear about them closing down, you're like, oh, we're not just losing a sort of business, or even losing a hub of a small community, as is often the case. We're losing part of the kind of history of this country. And some of these pubs do not reopen.
Yeah.
They sit there dilapidated, falling into disrepair. Sure, eventually someone might try and rejuvenate it, turn it into a gastro pub, or even just reoperate it. But in the meantime, this can easily slip away from us, and we can find ourselves in a few years' time and go, oh my God, like 80% of the pubs in this country have closed.
Yeah.
And then where does that leave us? Because like any other institution, these things need to be protected.
I agree. I definitely, with pubs, and particularly kind of small community pubs in villages, things like that. I agree with you. I do think it's really interesting. Like, you look at the sort of the last wave of cool pubs in London. Places that have sort of really, it's somewhere that has done it very well. It's a very obvious thing to say, but you look at the love that got put in somewhere like the Devonshire, for example, despite the awful queues of people outside making Guinness videos. But like, that was a sort of slightly unloved site on a pretty random street.
I don't really remember what it was before.
It was Jamie's Italian.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So it wasn't even a pub before?
It wasn't a pub. I think it maybe was something between that, but it wasn't really. But I think someone told me once, there's 42 pubs in Soho, right, within the sort of square of Soho. Most of them are pretty unmemorable. But what that has shown, I think, is like, if you get a good operator, someone who really loves pubs and gives a shit and cares, and obviously they spent a lot of money on that. I'm not sure you necessarily have to spend that much, but you do something like that, people will come and people will spend money, and people will, they put a huge amount of care into product, and yes, they marketed it very well and all the rest of it. But I can't imagine that if 3 or 4 other pubs in Soho didn't do something sort of similar. The problem is they're all owned by these kind of like very faceless breweries, and they sell Moretti and mech oil and stuff. And not that I love a pint of Moretti as much as the next person in the sunshine, but I feel like if you're able to loosen this up a little bit and allow good operators to go in and do them, then that's the key to saving pubs.
Yeah, I think I had Will Hawks on here, who is he's written, was it 500 best pubs in the country for the Telegraph, I think. He's traveled, he's visited thousands of pubs all over the country. And so I was sort of quizzing him on, what does a pub need to do in order to sort of stay above the surface of the water? And he was saying that, specializing in something or other is a good idea. And if that means that you've got a great selection of cask ale, brilliant. If you've got a fantastic food offering, brilliant. If it's architecturally an interesting pub, if you do, I don't know, games nights or open mic, God forbid, open mic nights, whatever it is, something that actually distinguishes you from the rest of the crowd. Because like you say, a lot of pubs, and tends to be the brewery and tied pubs, it is kind of cookie cutter, and you go there because it's the nearest pub.
The nearest one, exactly. Yeah.
But those are the ones where, well, there's 3 nearest pubs, I've got to pick one.
Yeah.
Eventually one of those is probably going to close, if people are going to continue to not go out as much, and if the price of beer is going to stay as high as it is, and all these other things.
Totally. I mean, there's a bunch. I just moved, but I lived in Hackney for 20 years. And there was a handful of pubs near us that basically realized that the cost of running a kitchen was the thing that was running them into the ground. So just kind of spent the money they would have spent on one KP and put a TV in there and showed football, and let people order pizza from the nearest pizza place, and they are kind of thriving. They always feel busy. No one's really caring that they can't get the fish and chips they used to get because they can just order a pizza. And there's lots of young people who still want to go to pubs, and those pubs are great. So that's not the most creative way in the world to do it, but it's worked. And I think there's a little bit more of that kind of thing. I think there's a lot of hope for pubs, and pubs are definitely getting a lot more attention from a new younger crowd. I think partly because they are better value than going to a cocktail bar or a restaurant.
Yeah. What operations, restaurants, bars in London or elsewhere do you see doing a great job? What's some new places or somewhere old that's doing something great?
So there's the place that my boss is so sick of me going on about this place. There's a bar in Chicago called Gus's Sip and Dip, which is not exactly, it's on sort of top 50 lists in the US now. But when it opened, and actually not many people in the UK seem to be aware of it yet. But it's a bigger operation in Chicago, and a guy called Kevin Beery, who runs the drinks program, as they refer to it over there. But they opened about 2 years ago, and it's sort of Satan's Whiskers-esque, I guess. You have kind of a menu of 25, 26 classic cocktails. They have it's a very beautiful bar. They've done really, white jackets, very, very cool, amazing playlist, all dark and very sexy, really good bar food. But their big USP was all of their drinks at all times are $12. And
which is pretty damn
Which
cheap.
is, that's for reference, just under a tenner. And these are beautiful glassware, beautifully garnished, lovely little collateral, nice coasters and picks and stuff. And basically his thing was, we don't have a back bar. We have 1 gin, 1 vodka, 1 scotch, and they're all good. It's Tanqueray 10, it's Kettle 1, it's not rubbish. And, we buy 30 cases of it at a time. And because we buy 30 cases of it at a time, it's cheap. And therefore we're able to offer these drinks. And there's something about the atmosphere of that bar, which was, you could see that everyone in there was relaxed because they knew their check was going to be reasonable. And so you saw these people kind of relaxing into their evening, knowing they could order a second or third. During happy hour, by the way, they have a drink that's on at $6, which is insane. If you get Martini Day at $6, it's amazing. And I was like, this is so interesting that you're using price point as your creativity.
Yeah.
That's something and not in a kind of Simmons bar way, but in a, everything else is brilliant. And I just thought, like, why isn't everyone trying to copy this?
Yeah.
Like, why is everyone trying to copy, Terry and love Monica and Alex, what they do, they're the best at it, but like it's a hard thing to copy, and most people aren't talented enough to do it. But like everyone could do this, or like a version of this, and do it to a relatively high standard. It's brilliant. Like it's so clever, and it's packed every night of the week. They're winning an awards. It's not like they're kind of not in that world. But I just thought that's genius. And I think in a world where we're sort of so every single spirit brand I talk to is like, people are drinking less but better, and people want super premium. I'm like, no, they bloody don't. They want people want to be able to go out and drink and not like
Just want good
bread and
value.
milk.
Yeah.
And I spoke to the guy who operates it, and he said he was really sad that there's going to be this whole generation of people in their kind of 20s who don't know what a classic cocktail is, and his aim was to try and kind of get younger people to come in and try these drinks that we all grew up with and that have been around for ages, because we're sort of losing that thread. And I thought it was a really nice way of putting it.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating idea.
Yeah.
Because I think what you mentioned about how people are relaxed because they know that they're not going to be spending hundreds of dollars on a few cocktails, and it's so true. Like, I think there is probably a sort of underlying tension a lot of the time in bars these days, because everything is so expensive, and you're like, shall I have a third drink? Well, that's going to be another 15 quid plus service or whatever. Like that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And
for something you might not like as well.
something you might not like. And the point of going out to bars is to meet friends and to relax. And
Totally.
and when that comes with a really hefty price tag, it's not so relaxing, is it?
I wouldn't do. I don't do it, if I'm honest with you. And I think the way we've tried to go about it in this country now is people kind of will do a little offer here, like we'll have a happy hour, which we haven't got the muscle memory for in the UK. I don't think we intrinsically kind of understand happy hours and the kind of occasion of it. We're sort of like, is this like a student thing, or like what's going on here?
So true.
But
It's like, I'm not a student.
it's not built into our sort of cultural kind of lexicon. Do you know what I mean? It's just not
Whereas
there.
in the US, it's massive.
Yeah, and they understand, they know when it is, and they know and they have their local bar. Whereas actually, like, rather than thinking about these little occasions where we can kind of drop price to try and, we're trying to engineer it to push people in when we want them. Actually, like, what is value? What does good value look like? And I think there's so few people. Satan's Whiskers is pretty good at it. It's pretty good value. Certainly very good value for the quality of what you get. But in general, I think people are just going on like, well, people will pay $17 17 quid for a cocktail, so we can charge it.
What do you think about bars which might be selling cocktails for 10 quid, but they're sort of half the size?
I think people see through that, to be honest with you. I know lots of people, and I think particularly in the kind of GLP-1 era where people are going to be sort of physiologically wanting to drink less. And I know plenty of people who like that trend, and I think that's great, be able to have a smaller cocktail. But like, in some ways, I think it can come across as even worse value, because you don't tend to halve the price. You tend to 3/4 the price and half the size of the drink.
Yeah.
And like some people just, I don't know about you, I like a big boozy drink sometimes, and I don't mind having just one, but like I want it to be good, and they don't need to be that expensive.
Yeah.
But I think it's fine. There's some people who do that really well. It's a bit of a pain in the ass operationally to be constantly sending out these tiny little drinks as well, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is why I think they're probably 3/4 of the price rather than half, because operationally it requires exactly the same amount of work. It's just
everyone's just pouring it from a bottle these days anyway.
Oh,
But including us sometimes. So I'm not going to people in glass houses.
It's true. Everything's batched anyway. But but no, I don't know. I kind of sit on the fence with it, because on the one hand, it makes it lowers the price access point to an evening. You still get exactly the same moment when the cocktail arrives. You get to taste that drink, and everything's a little bit more diminutive. And I guess, there's a sort of moderation angle to it as well.
Totally.
You are drinking less alcohol.
I think you can say net good, right? Like without being all in on it.
I think so. Net good. But it depends on the kind of night out you're having, right?
Yeah.
And if you want a big drink, then you're going to have to order 2 of them.
We know that's when it's annoying. So, one of the things we really work on as much as we possibly can is speed of how quickly drinks land on tables after they're ordered, hence the batching, etc. And I think sometimes if you're having the kind of night out where there's 6 of you all ordering cocktails and everyone's drinking at different speeds, constantly getting these little tiny glasses landing on tables is a bit of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So I think they work in a restaurant setting when you want a little something before dinner. I think it's great. It's a great idea.
Now, farming might not be the first thing you think of when it comes to vodka, but it's there in every single bottle. In Poland, that traditionally means rye. And for Belvedere, it now means organic rye across their entire product range. Going fully organic is a serious business. It's a serious commitment. So nastroje, Belvedere. You get that gentle prickle of spice on the tongue, a thick, unctuous texture, and that smooth finish. Enough character to really sharpen a martini, which is important to me. Belvedere have also invested in their distillery. Biomass energy, solar power. Real changes for a better world and a better vodka. And I like that. This is a vodka with flavour, made with a bit more care than most, and one that really earns its place in a martini. Belvedere. Always first, always unexpected. Let's get back to the show. I guess you probably employ quite a lot of Gen Z on the bars and on the floor at Hawksmoor. And of course, this generation famously are not drinking so much.
Yeah. Apparently.
I think that might be changing a little bit because some Gen Zs are not even old enough to drink.
Yeah.
At the moment. So,
Still, yeah. Just
so that obviously skews the data a little bit. How are you finding this generation as employees, as parts of teams? How are they working out?
God, yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever known so much like general crap being spoken about an entire age group of people as the sort of,
But it happened before with millennials.
We
as
did.
well.
I was about to say, do you remember we love eating in car parks, or we like experiences over stuff like.
I mean, maybe we've been around long enough to know now that actually any coming of age generation just gets shat on.
Just get shat on. I mean, first of all, taking an entire cohort and trying to sort of overlay that with some kind of cultural homogeneity is just like fucking stupid in the first place. Yeah. So all very different. I think there's also this thing where you're kind of like constantly trying to instill your values on on people younger than you, right? You want them to behave, to consume like you consumed in the same way. By and large, again, I mean, there's obviously like a technological angle, there's a cultural angle. This is the generation that went through COVID, but like quite a lot of the time, it's like they want to drink like things that aren't that expensive, and they'd rather not be around older people. Kind of
pretty fair set request.
Kind of how I felt when I was 21, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Kind of how I feel now.
Kind of, but like it's so funny. I mean, I remember being between the age of 21 and 25, and you could still afford, if you were on a minimum wage plus tips in central London, working in a bar or whatever, you could afford to live in a 2 or 3 bedroom share house in Zone 2 and still have money to go out. And bloody hell, we went out, and go to a nightclub, buy drugs, buy booze, whatever you want to do. And like fundamentally, that's just not the case anymore. That's just, if you're on a bartender or waiter wage or line cook wage and you want to try and live in Zone 2, it's really, you end up moving further out. People, I know people who have to share bedrooms, all this kind of stuff, or they move to a different city. And they certainly haven't got the nice sort of cozy cultural enclave that we had in East London when we were that age. So I think that's fundamentally different, and that changes your attitude.
Yeah.
The other big thing, I think, and again, this may be my personal experience, but I don't come from a background with like rich parents or anything like that. But I felt, or I was certainly under the impression that when I was 21 to 25, let's say, that if I worked really, really hard and I was good at my job, that I could probably buy a house, start a business, or start a family, or two of those three at least. Yeah. And I'm not sure that's the case anymore. No. Or certainly people in their 20s don't believe that. Yeah. And that changes the way. Why should you work 60 hours a week if that's not going to happen? What's the point? Yeah. So I do understand how that's influenced it. On the drinking thing, I'm not sure it's true, first of all. I do think that when we're, people are worried because Gen Z, inverted commas, aren't coming to the kind of bars and restaurants that we've built, because they're owned by people in their 40s and 50s. Yeah. And they're not for them. And they're expensive, and they're not for them. I think one of the things that I love about places like, Berlin, Barcelona, Manchester, those kind of places, you get the feeling that there are businesses owned by people in their 20s for people in their 20s. This is not the case in London at all, or New York, really, to a certain extent. You're not building places that, are reflecting the things that people in their 20s want. So are you surprised they're not coming in, having your steak and chips and a glass of wine? That's not how they want to consume.
I think price is the other factor as well, because I mean, on the one hand we're saying, oh well, hospitality's struggling, people aren't going out as much anymore, it's all social media and screens, and this generation,
do you know who else spends loads of time on their phones?
Old people.
And me, like, do you know what I mean? Old people, exactly. This is
you fell into that category.
I did this, yeah. I mean, I was at BCB a couple of years ago with Sandra Lawrence, invited me to come do be on a panel talk about Gen Z, the negativity, all the tropes basically about people in their 20s and like how they behave and what they want, and they're always on their phone. It's like, it's total bullshit. Like, everyone's on their phone all the time, everyone's addicted to their phone. Like, I don't know, it really is. I find it very very weird and quite unfair, to be honest with you.
Isn't the oldest known piece of written language, I think it's Mesopotamian, like Sumerian or something like that, going back 6,000, 7,000 years or something, is a statement about how the younger generation don't have the values and the motivation.
Just look at their tablets all the time.
Literally the first thing that was ever written was old people complaining about young people, and we are still doing it now. And every single time the next generation comes through, it's this sort of coming of age period, like it will have it of alpha as well. We're like, oh well, this time they're really fucked. They don't, they're not motivated, they don't have the work ethic, they're not doing the things that we expect them to do, and there's absolutely no hope for humanity.
They tell you, and by the way, I'm not suggesting that they are just that every generation that goes past is the same as the one that came before. They all have differences, and some of them are like some of them are quite, there are certain things you can infer, and you have to, right? You can't look at every single person as individual.
Well, especially now, because the environment changes so much from one generation to the other.
Technologically, right?
Technology, and therefore the sort of side effects of society and culture has changed so dramatically in the last 100 years, that every generation is being put into effectively a completely different world. And so obviously they're going to be different. They're going to have, consume media differently, have different ideas about things. They're going to be exposed to concepts and people that they never would have seen before. So obviously that's going to modify it. But I also think that there's a general humanity that runs through every single generation, and for the most part, people kind of want the same things.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like, a lot of the times when people moan about, I mean, not moan, but that people talk about kind of, the manosphere, things like that, which we're getting into this podcast. But I'm like, we were little shits when, I think about the boys I went to school when we were 14. They were awful. They were really, really bad. But it's so much more amplified now because people have the ability to talk about it. That's not to diminish the problem that is, but I do think there's a lot more similarities. It's just the technological lens has changed how impactful it is.
Yeah, well, access to it. If you had, if you had certain ideas or ideologies in the past, and no one around you was thinking the same thing, then where do you go in order to sort of foster those ideas?
Yeah, just the pub.
Yeah, the pub. Just start ranting around about the villages you live in.
That's where the pub. That's why these pubs are going. That's why they're going shit. There we go.
Why we need
we've solved it.
Yeah. Bring like ideological capture back into the pubs. Whereas now, of course, you can find your people, right? Yeah. And you can find people with even more extreme opinions or views or whatever they might be. And it could be that you're finding your people, and those people are cocktail advocates, and or it could be something else. So that's the sort of double-edged sword of the internet, isn't it? It's open
your rhythmical magic carpet ride,
algorithmical. That's my DJ name.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm kind of we're in agreement. I think there's a lot of bad things said about Gen Z, as there has other previous generations. But I mean, there's a lot of things I'm pessimistic about. It doesn't pertain to generations of human beings.
Well, I don't think it matters whether we're optimistic or pessimistic. It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's, obviously that doesn't mean that anyone has any kind of agency or ability to impact, but we are just going to become older, and this is going to get harder unless I think you accept that, that's what happens.
Can we talk about war on terroir?
Wow. Yes.
What was it?
So I basically had. Well, actually, you're self-employed, haven't you? Aren't you? So you've probably never been unemployed before. Have you ever been unemployed?
When I was very young.
When you're very
Yeah,
young.
yeah.
So after we closed Bad Sports, I had a sort of 6 month to a year period where I was sort of in between jobs, to put it not mildly. I never signed on though, and I was doing like bits and bobs, doing some work for Barry Wilson actually, which was hilarious and a lot of fun, but was a bit of a loose end. And me and two other people who I won't mention because they I don't think everyone knows who did it. I think we started talking in a WhatsApp group about how irritating people, natural wine people are. And I say this in like, in a loving way, because I also quite enjoy natural wine from time to time. But there was an earnestness around the natural wine movement at that point, and we sort of laughed about our shared love of the ubiquitous corner shop and supermarket wine that you can find kind of anywhere, and how nice it is, and that ended up becoming like, oh, let's start a wine review Instagram page, and you can tell how like technologically ignorant we were that we thought people would want to read the long captions, and it turned out some people did, but lots of people didn't. And it sort of spiraled.
Like essays.
And it ended up becoming like quite longer essays, and we sort of moved into other cultural topics, TV, all that kind of stuff. And then there was a bit backlash here and there, so it became a bit of a sort of sideways piss take. And one of the things I really realized about the bar industry is we were really fucking bad at laughing at ourselves. And okay, I'll be honest with you, occasionally some of them got a little close to the bone, but people take themselves so seriously, and I was just, it really, really, I think is that to our detriment. I think we'd probably do a lot better. I mean, let's be honest with you, I'm definitely don't subscribe to we're not curing cancer. I think that's quite reductive, but we are making drinks, and if you're not able to kind of see the silliness in that sometimes, like bars are a bit silly. Some of the stuff that we do is a bit, if you explained it to imagine explaining to kind of a scaffolder. So what we do is we like pour this booze into a big bucket, and then we like squeeze loads of citrus in it, and then we like pour some cream or milk into it, and then we filter it out. So you just be like, what the fuck are you doing? It's so stupid.
Just pour me a pint.
Yeah, but it's so weird. It's so weird. Like we're in that. We're so kind of in the world. So it turned out to be a bit of a sort of sideways look at people and things and culture and how silly some of it was. And I would concede some of it probably got a little bit personal from time to time, which it wasn't meant to. But I think in the end, after that period of unemployment, and A, we didn't have as much time on our hands, and B, I think I certainly just got a little bit less sort of angry with the world, and sort of a bit, and it was, it was a bit more harmonious, and just decided that we will very occasionally post something, but I think in the world of, we are not meme lords, and I think the way that it was going was, that's what people wanted. People wanted like snappier.
If I prepared better for this interview, I would have actually got a couple of them up to read out, because it was so brilliantly written, like so insightful, like this sort of it's satire.
You can see it's still up on Instagram. Anyone wants to follow it? At War on Terroir. I mean, I did but. Oops, come out with that.
But it's very sardonic kind of tone, and just very witty. Like, I guess you needed to be pretty well in the industry to kind of get a lot of the jokes.
Yeah, and that's what it was. We were never doing it. I think there was a point where we sort of thought it'd be quite funny to do a sort of corner shop wine and crisp pop up kind of thing. But I know we never really took that seriously.
You were going to do a book at one point as well.
We were going to do a book. Actually, the book I would love to have done, and I actually realised recently as it kind of started to drift a little bit, I realized that that Instagram was the wrong format for it. Like maybe it could have been a Substack, or maybe it could have been something else altogether, because I think it had legs. Excuse the wine pun. And it was for that summer or year and a half, however long we did it for, it felt like a nice creative outlet, and you're like, oh, actually I quite enjoy kind of writing this dumb stuff about whatever, and then reading the comments and interacting with it. It was do
you think you can still do a book around that sort of?
Ooh, I think maybe the time is also the other, crucially, I think everyone has subsequently realized that natural wine is really lame. So the bottom seems to have fallen out of that one a little bit, or certainly kind of the funkier edge. It sort of started, I remember we would like go to the shop and buy the kind of most ridiculous looking bottle of natural wine we could find, you know, with a cartoon drawing of a monkey on the label or something like that, and then drink it. It was literally undrinkable, but cost 60 quid. I just thought, this is just insane. But I think culture's caught up with that now, and also realizes it's insane.
Well, that's right. Everyone was sort of drinking the Kool-Aid, weren't they? There are great natural wines, of course.
Unbelievable, yeah.
But the problem is that I guess we were just kind of overrun with these kind of sort of cider tasting, and I like cider, by the way, but I don't like my wine to taste like cider.
Yeah.
I like my cider to taste like cider.
Yeah. But I think it was a period where people kind of became very tribal about what they drink, and what you drank really kind of defined who you were. So
Yeah.
obviously craft beer being the great example of that, where, you know, there were craft beer people and they were like super passionate and tended to be white guys with beards by and large, but not always. And natural wine definitely felt like a kind of tribe. It's a little bit alternative, quite kind, you know, there was a type of person who drank natural wine, I think, and people wanted to fit into that, and then that becomes a bit of a parody, and then it sort of loses its cool. But I wonder what the next. You better be hoping it's whiskey, right?
Well, what? Yeah, English whiskey.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think the next big thing is?
I wasn't expecting that to be turned around onto me.
Yeah,
Balls.
that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's really, I sort of find it hard to. I mean, there's lots of things that have popped up, and then I think, again, for quite often for cost reasons, aren't really going to work. So Mezcal kind of seemed like it was going to be that. It seemed like a good thing to take the baton from natural wine. It's quite kind of artisanal and
tick some of the same boxes,
Yeah,
and kind of an acquired taste, and like, oh, you don't like mezcal?
yeah.
What's wrong with you?
But it's very expensive,
It's
and
expensive.
crucially, like a lot of people, it's not to a lot of people's taste, I don't think.
Yeah. Although they probably, I mean, I would argue they probably just not had the right one. The problem is with mezcal here is 99% of the mezcals we get into this country are very smoky.
Yeah.
And my experience of tasting a lot of mezcals in Mexico is that often isn't the case, and especially amongst the best mezcals.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion, they're often not that smoky at all. And so the category's sort of being misdefined,
Yeah.
in a way, because I guess the sort of basic, I'm going to maybe offend some people, the basic bitch interpretation was, this is smoky tequila.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
so consumer expectation when you're buying a mezcal at a bar over here, I'm expecting to get a smoky tequila.
Yeah.
And actually, that's not the true nature of what mezcal is in all of its sort of breadth.
I guess the one thing I'll push back on a little bit though with that is, what's the occasion for mezcal to make it big, like big.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're sitting in your wonderful whiskey bar where people do come and like really get into it, but you don't see that many people drinking straight spirits out these days, and I think that's something that, where with anything beyond a certain price point or beyond a certain level of kind of expertise, that's an issue, because people just aren't drinking because we're Brits and we like to be refreshed, I guess.
Thirsty.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the occasion is a difficult one, and
We're thirsty lot.
dehydrated it.
We haven't had a drink yet, by the way.
No, we haven't. Do you want to have a drink?
Yeah, let's have a little drink. Go on.
What should we have? Whiskey?
Yeah, let's have a whiskey. Go on.
All right, let's. I'll get some glass.
Is there anything particularly you want to have?
Are we going to pause for a sec?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm just going to.
We're back, and we've got whiskey.
What are you drinking?
This is Woven. You know, Woven guys.
Is this Duncan McRae?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amongst others, and they've done a blend for Black Rock, which is, I think it's in the table at the moment. Actually, no, it's not. There's nothing in there. But that's the idea. It goes in the table. They've done a blend especially for us, and it's been finished in PX cask. It's really tasty.
Oh, it's tasty.
Yeah.
Oh, delicious.
I need a little
5 o'clock somewhere. A bit
need a
more.
little sharpener after last night. Yeah.
What were you drinking last night?
Well, I had 3 martinis.
Yeah, okay.
Courtesy of Jim.
Forgot about that.
Just lift that microphone up a little bit.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was the did you know the problem was, I mean, schoolboy era, didn't eat.
At the Fortnum Mason Awards, you did?
Well, I had canapes.
Oh, it wasn't like a sit down.
No. So I had 3 martinis on an empty stomach,
Yeah.
which is, it's never
Do
great.
you ever do that thing where you're like, the drinks you have before you go to the thing that's the main thing, you sort of just completely forget about? You're like, they didn't really happen.
Yeah. No, exactly. No, that's exactly what happened last night. I mean, then I went to the is it the Wolsey in just off London Bridge, and actually had a mezcal margarita. It was very smoky.
Yeah.
And a beer, and then turn up at this awards, and then of course it's just champagne, and
Yeah.
so and then no real food.
God.
And then over here for whiskey after that. So yeah, drink responsibly and all that. Which is why I'm a little bit dusty this morning. Anyway,
Doing a great job, Tristan.
thank you. Thanks. Well, you're doing a great job of keeping this going. What if your wine glass did more than just hold wine? What about if it took it to the next level? Enter the Denver and Liley wine glass. It's engineered from a single hand-blown piece of crystal. So it isn't just beautiful, it's actually designed to bring out all the nuances of a great wine. Inside the bowl, there's a raised hub with directional fins. Give it a swirl and marvel as delicate white wines whisper soft secrets to you, and bold red wines are coaxed to sing. I've never encountered a piece of glassware that affects the aroma and flavour of a liquid quite like the Denver and Liley wine glass, which is why I think it is the best wine glass on the planet. Good news is Denver and Liley are partnering with the show. Head to denverandliley.com, use the code CURIOUS15 at checkout, and it'll give you 15% off your glassware order. Denver and Liley wine glass, engineered for character. Cheers. Now let's get back to the show. So going back to Mezcal, I think you're right. The Mezcal moment should be something like the wine bar moment. It should be appreciating a liquid for its sort of provenance and, you know, the clarity of its flavor and the production techniques and all of that manifesting itself in the glass, and you being able to sort of reflect on it and enjoy it and be a connoisseur of that particular thing. But the issue, actually, you quite rightly point out, is that you're sipping neat spirits, and people just don't want to do that a lot of the time.
I think one of the things I really realised over the last couple of years is that we are not normal when it comes to this.
Just
kind
you
of-
and me,
You
or-
and me. Oh well, yeah. But like people who work in our profession, and you are like the. I'm not going to call you a geek. You are the knowledge when it comes to spirits. You know, you've literally written the book on all of them. But like regular people, I refuse to call them consumers. Regular people who come into particularly when they're actually more so when they're out, I think, than when they're at home, are not necessarily looking for education, guidance, whatever. They're looking for like the thing that sometimes makes them look like least silly in that moment, or like the thing that's going to quench their thirst in that moment, or like they just sort of want something kind of quite simple that kind of meets that moment. And I think if you trying to sort of understand that actually they're not there for your mezcal or your very intricate cocktail or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very freeing, like it really is. You start to kind of see people a different way. Now, obviously, if you have a specialist whiskey bar
Yes.
or a specialist mezcal bar, that is very different. People are selecting a place where they are coming for that experience. But it's
not that many people.
But it's not that many people,
And that's
yeah.
why there aren't that many specialist whiskey bars and
Yeah.
specialist mezcal
That's why
bars.
you keep on winning class specialist bar of the year after year after year.
Yeah, yeah. Because there's just no other specialist bars. And that's why this bar is not very big.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah,
it's too big, then there wouldn't be enough people to fill it, you know?
And I would love it if there was kind of more places that specialize in something and were great. But you know, as you see, I saw Hatcher just closed down. It's a wonderful bar on Kingsland Road. And you know that was always felt relatively busy, but you have to be so busy now, and you have to do such high volume, and that you have to sort of turn tables and and I think quite often, unless you get a great deal on rent or whatever, specialist bars are not able to do that level of volume in order to literally like pay the staff and pay the rent. So it's tough. It's not great, actually. It's not great for our hospitality scene.
No, it's not. I mean, and of course, London used to be such an accommodating place for specialist venues of any kind, food and drink, because there's a population of people here that really want to try new things, but it's become unsustainable now, given the cost of everything, which we've obviously covered in great detail. But it's a shame, because I think it was one of the great things about this city is that you could open up a breakfast cereal bar.
I mean, do you know what? God, never thought I'd feel nostalgic for those two fucking guys. but fair
Was it
point.
Serial Killer? Was that
Serial Killer Cafe? Yeah. Bloody hell! I mean, what in the Camden is this? But yeah, wow, that is insane.
They were charging like £5 for a bowl of cereal or
but
something.
it's interesting. I made a joke about cheap money earlier on, or like low interest rates. But that period, that like post financial crash period, there was just so much like swilling around, right? You could get your hands on, like low interest loans, and there was people wanting to invest, and there was always schemes to help people invest in places. And like in that environment, that kind of like, people are making, I know that the rest of the country was less like this, but in London, it definitely felt like it. There was this feeling of people going out to kind of experiment and try new things. And there was always kind of quite interesting, cool bars and restaurants opening. And not in a bad way, but I feel like we're in sort of the downside of the curve there, where people are looking for kind of familiarity, comfort, and they want to know what they're getting. And that's fine. It will come around again at some point. It will, I'm sure.
Yeah. I had Peter Dorelli on, and we were talking about trends, because he's 65 years in sort of working in bars now, so he's seen it come.
I think he was going to say 65 years old. I was like, no,
he's not. No, not at all. And he was saying that in times of financial hardship, when there's sort of uncertainty in the market and things are more expensive, whatever, inflation, people always revert back to classic cocktails. And then when there's a lot more money swirling around, they're much more experimental. They want to try new things. And so I guess that's kind of what we're seeing at the moment.
Totally. And I think like lean into, it's not a negative thing. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. Making drinks like perfect, brilliantly is an art form in itself. And just as important, I've come to realize, as being inverted commas, creative with drinks. The one is not better than the other. And actually, I think it's probably quite a good thing for some of the operators, bartenders, bar managers, creatives in the world to hone in on things that are a little bit simpler and kind of go back to that level of craft, as opposed to, maybe put, as someone who I count myself as quite a creative person, I think we put far too much emphasis on drinks specifically. And there's reasons for that, but I think that's, it has gone a bit too far.
Yeah, well, I think we have sort of grown up in this industry in an era where, when we first started, bartenders were didn't garner much respect.
Yes,
they were sort of ancillary to the restaurant operation, or they were just churning out beers or whatever. And there was a kind of a point to prove there, in the early part of the century, where it's like, well, look, we make cocktails, and with these cocktails need to be balanced, and sometimes we use fresh ingredients, and we garnish them, and we're obviously managing the room and all this sort of thing. And so we have cocktail competitions come along, which sort of designed to showcase that there's the skill here, and there is creativity and innovation and all this kind of stuff, and to sort of raise the sort of status of the bartender. And it did it. But of course, it then became this sort of like clamoring for like, well, I'm now doing this, and that sets me apart, and you're doing that. And right, well, this is the next sort of new cocktail trend that we're going to do: barrel aged cocktails. We're going to do milk punches. We're going to do clarification. We're going to have ice block. All these different things that are designed to sort of showcase, here's the skill that we have, and here is the attention to detail.
And the next stage of that is everyone's content creator now, right? That's where it's gone to. 50 best, bless it, and I think it's again net good, is entertainment. It's not hospitality, and I think that's fine, by the way. I don't think there's a problem with that. But most of the people in those lists, most people on those lists, are now nearly full-time content creators. They are churning it out, and it's entertainment. It's not hospitality, and again, that's fine, but call it what it is a little bit. Like that's, and I think that's it's a different kind of creativity. Hospitality, I think as a concept, we slightly overblow it sometimes, because it's wonderful when you feel it. It feels amazing, and everyone walks around with their Will Guidara book and goes like, it's great. But for a lot of people, particularly a lot of people in the hospitality industry, they don't particularly love serving customers or like guests, or they don't love offering hospitality. They do like taking pictures of drinks, working on drinks, making videos, all the rest of it. That's fine. Like, let's celebrate that. But I think pretending that it all comes down to these amazing hospitality moments, that's not the world we live in. People are experiencing these things through their phones just as much as they are in venue. We should really celebrate the places that do incredible hospitality, but not expect that that's what everyone wants to do, and that's the be all and end all of our industry, because it isn't. It's not just about those moments.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess the thing about the 50 best, and sort of any kind of awarding system where there's quite a lot of work that goes into putting yourself onto one of these lists or getting nominated,
loads of work,
is that when the standard of service the reality of the place doesn't
Well,
reflect.
that happens so often. How many times have you been into a top 50 bar and not had a great time? I mean, it's happened to me. You're probably more recognizable than I am, but it happens quite a lot. I don't judge that these places are bad places because I've had one bad experience, but quite often, they are. I saw like someone sent me a video of the queue outside Bar Leone in Hong Kong, by the way, which I'd love to go. It looks so good.
It does look great, doesn't
Looks
it?
amazing. And they publish all of their cocktail recipes, which I think is like chef's kiss. Great thing to do. But like running that place probably doesn't feel that much like running a bar anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's like running. It's an entertainment business in
Like
some
a
ways.
theatre or something.
Yeah, exactly. And like, cool. That's like the world that they are operating in. I'm sure that they put a lot of work in to get to that stage. But to pretend that it's like some neighborhood bar done well, it's like it's not. They're different. They're two different things. You know?
No, it can't stay a neighborhood bar done well,
Yeah.
and it has the notoriety and the sort of, like you say, the necessary content created around it to sustain what it now
But
represents.
these are always seen as like a stick to beat these places with. I don't think it is. I think it's like absolutely commendable, and it's entertaining. Do you know who David Graeber is? That the anthropologist. He basically said that like we should have been like flying. We should have had flying cars, and we should have gone. We should have had like cities on the moon and stuff. But all we've really done is like figure out better ways to entertain ourselves. That's like all we've done. And like if you look at football, I know you're not a big football fan, but like no one's actually watching football for the sort of purity of the football. They're listening to the content that comes out of it afterwards and the chat. And a lot of these things it's creating an entertainment industry around
politics, of course.
Politics, yeah, exactly. But it's creating an entertainment industry around the thing. It's entertaining, and it's actually a lot of it's good. Some of the videos that people make about cocktails are fucking sick. Some of them are much better than going to some of the bars themselves. And like that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a different thing.
Yeah, and an offshoot of this is this. I seem to think there's a trend for people who were working in hospitality now becoming content creators.
Yeah.
Lots of people drifting into like, well, I now photograph drinks or I now
Yeah.
make videos about drinks, because the two have sort of become kind of inseparable at the top
But I
end.
think I find it really quite a lot. I'm certainly not singling anyone out, but definitely some people I've spoken to. They worked in hospitality. Maybe that they say the two people drinking whiskey at like pre-12. Maybe that they had a bit of a difficult relationship with alcohol, or late nights turned into things like it had an impact on their relationship, or they became parents, and that and how brilliant that we live in a world where they're able to pick up a camera and do something different that's also still around the thing they're an expert in. That's beautiful. We should really celebrate that. But I feel like sometimes people are a bit like, oh, not on the floor anymore, not, and that's bullshit. Like, we're so lucky that it's grown to the extent that it's got a
You
sort of
can
hinterland.
still operate within the sphere, and you don't have to be like doing late shifts.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought of myself when I was bartending as like, I'm going to do this as a career. I would always be behind the bar.
One of the guys,
I'm going to be there. I'm like 60 years old, still behind the bar. And then, so, when you see some of these older guys who are still doing it, it is remarkable, really, that they've had sort of patience and the tenacity to keep on doing it. But they're so rare, and that's because it's a freaking graft, man. Like,
It's a graft. But
really
you look, your
is.
man at Duke's, Alessandro.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's so good at it. He's pure hospitality, right? Like that. And I think a lot of people are they see that's the kind of platonic form of what we do, and that's where we should be aiming for. I don't think I've ever met anyone who would be able to continue that level of like incredible service, incredible hospitality I'm not sure, he's probably in his 60s maybe, but he's still amazing at it and still kind of offering this incredible thing, and that's also beautiful, but not there's really very few people who are able to do that.
And most of them are Italian, I think.
Yeah. What is that?
Well, I asked that question to Dorelli. Was it Dorelli I asked it to, or was it Alessandro? One of them. Or Ago, I asked it to, I think. Because, of course, he's gearing up for that, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing it 20, 30 years and doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. He said it was, it's just cultural. It's cultural. It's, there's a sort of social interplay that happens from an early age in Italy where you are just hosting fans and family. You're in and out each other's houses. It's just part of the like general modus operandi. You kind of, I'm in your house and you're hosting me. You're in my house. I'm hosting you, and that just becomes part of the way that you do things. And then you end up in a bar, and of course you're like, well, this is just like being a welcoming friend to my house.
Well, thank the Lord for this, for all of their service. But I mean, like, that bar is a great example, I think, of people who managed to do both the content creation and the kind of the hype. And also, I remember I'm not really a hotel bar kind of a I'm not so particularly sort of smart or whatever. And I put off going there for ages. I didn't want to queue. I thought it would be a bit disappointing. And I was just like, oh, it's not really my thing. And I remember just being like, this is so sick. Like, it's so good.
It never disappoints. And I mean, to have sustained what they're doing at that level for, what is it, 16 years now, or 17 years?
I can do it.
18 years.
Yeah.
No, I know. That's the thing. It's that patience and that sort of quiet, discreet. Well, not sometimes discreet actually, because it's pretty. What they do now with the content and everything is pretty sort of flamboyant and creative, but it's like they're not running a sprint; it's a marathon.
Yeah,
you know? Or it's an ultra marathon. There's a long viewpoint, you know, rather than like, because a lot of places, you know, we've all done it. You open a place and you're like, right, let's make an impact.
Yeah,
let's get people talking about it.
And then what? What comes
And
next?
then what comes next after that? You don't think about, well, what are we going to be doing in a year? What are we going to do 2 years? Whereas I think with somewhere like the Connaught, there's just been a very sort of long horizon view objective. And I guess that sort of comes part and parcel with operating a bar in an old hotel.
Yeah.
You can't be thinking like, right, well, we've got to make the headlines this next week.
I sort of think this is where maybe the list thing falls down a little bit, and it's a bit unfair because you see these places like the Connaught. I saw Attaboy, which is, I mean, like, what a bar that is, by the way, but like an unbelievable bar that never misses a beat, and it's like, it will slide down a list. You're like, doesn't deserve to slide down a list. It's kind of maybe people have kind of got to know it, and so they want to push other people up. They should just, I think they almost should just like retire those places to like a Hall of Fame or something, because
For sure.
they remain like impeccable, and I can't think of a better place in the world to go and drink than Attaboy. But
if the list was a true reflection, that list wouldn't change that much.
But that's it. You want,
year
but
on
you
year.
need. I mean, the beast needs feeding.
Yeah.
But I think, and I think that's correct, because you want to give new people a chance. But I think almost you just need to have like a separate.
But you separate list. You have like, you know,
the legends,
newcomer list,
yeah,
and then these are actually the best bars in the world.
Yeah.
You know,
because like, if you can honestly tell me, I mean, I go to New York 3 or 4 times a year. I try and go to Attaboy at least once. I've never had anything apart from a 9.5 out of 10 experience there, and you know, that's pretty amazing, right? Like for a bar that's in its, you know, really in its 20th year.
Yeah. Do you think there should be like a requirement that you've got to have been open 3 years or something like that to be on this?
No, I don't really think. I think it's great when, you know, people. Ian Griffiths just opened a place called Bar Snack in New York that's kind of gonna do very, very well. It's already done, you know, and deserves it all. And also, you know, you open some fanfare, you hire
Been there?
Yeah, a few times. Yeah, it's
Brilliant.
brilliant. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing. But you hire a team who are, you know, young people who are excited and they want to like achieve things quickly. Like, I think 3 years is a bit, you know, not that many people are going to stick around the job for 3 years. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the sort of arguments that gets thrown at the list is like, well, is it actually a financially sustainable business? And you do often see these some bars appear in this list, and then 3 or 4 years later.
Yeah. Well, I think that's up to the bars to be, you know, to have a sustainable, word that I think is overused, attitude to like how that works. You know, you know, gravity is a bit of a bitch. The Dead Rabbit's a really good example. You know, they worked really hard to work their way up, got to number 1. If you go there now, it's absolutely insane. Like, it's so good, high volume, brilliant drinks, really well run, amazing team. They're not really, I don't feel like, aiming for that anymore. Not because the standards have dropped, just because they've kind of put their efforts elsewhere, and it's still doing very, very well, and everyone who works there seems very happy in it. You know, so it's a very well run business.
Yeah. But I mean, that is an example of a venue that opened. It wanted all the awards. It won most of them, if not all of them, and then settled into a, sorry to use the word again, sustainable rhythm.
Institution.
Yeah.
Became an institution, which is fine.
Which is what it always wanted to be, that too. Because even from the day it opened, it felt like it had been there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and actually, I think people should probably, you know, it's interesting. People should talk more about that sort of elegant decline, I guess. Well, not decline's the wrong word to use, but like, sort of when you've hit that pinnacle, you're never going to be able to stay there for 10 years, because that's not the way it's designed.
Yeah.
How to manage your way out of that position in a way that means your business is still successful, because that's quite interesting, I think, probably for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. It's just sort of cruise control, isn't it? Yeah.
And sometimes you see one drop. I mean, this is not really my world, because we don't really operate in that in you know, around that list. But sometimes if you see a kind of big fall, you're like, wow, what happened? And like, they went from 2nd to 12th. Like, what happened?
Well,
And
it's a bit like what we were talking about with like people pleading for customers to come into their bar.
Yeah.
It's like, right, you've dropped. Oh my God, you were 10th on the list, and now you're 42nd. I mean, why is your bar so shit now?
Yeah. Well, I keep on just naming places, but Three Sheets, when they were open in Dalston, was, I think it got up in top 20 anyway. And they have a new bar in newish bar in Soho that, in my mind, is significantly better than anything they've ever done. It's brilliant, and I think it's top 100 now. But they've got better as a business, and it's a very reductive thing, a list, because it doesn't really take that into account. But I guess if you want to be in that world, then you have to take the rough with the smooth a little bit.
Yeah. Hawksmoor's won its share of awards over the years, though.
We have this is maybe one of the reasons I'm a bit more positive about awards. We've been nominated for a couple of awards recently, which is great.
Which ones?
Class, we've been nominated for our drinks list, and we've been sort of long listed for Tales, and it's been a long time. And I think this one of the things, you've just won an award, famously, Tristan.
Yeah.
Winning awards feels fucking great.
No, it's nice.
It does feel nice.
It does feel nice, yeah.
And so I think kind of people who bitch about them too much, it's silly. It's lovely. It's lovely to be recognised by your peers. And we've won a couple of Tales awards before.
Yeah.
Notably when I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Or actually, funnily enough, the second time we won, I just come back after a sort of 4-year hiatus, and I'd sort of come in and gone like, yeah, the drinks program is like not up to scratch. It's not right. And then we won a Tales play. I was like, God.
I haven't won any Tales awards.
They're like yeah, exactly, not even nominated. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I'm necessarily the sort of I'm the greatest winner of awards of all time.
What was it like going back then? We haven't sort of covered that part of your trajectory. So Bad Sports Close. You did the did War on Terror.
Sat in my bedroom doing War on Terror like a little incel for a year.
Yeah, your incel era. And then
I remember why.
Then emerged back into society.
Yeah.
So what was it? How did it feel going back? Because did it feel like, oh God, like this is sort of a step back?
I was really, really wary of that. And actually, to be honest with you, I kind of when the job came up, I think I'd realised I was a bad owner. That was not for me. That world was I wasn't sort of cut out for that in terms of my temperament and my people pleasing. And then this job came up. And my initial reaction was like, it would be really nice to go back because I love the people and they're great. They are truly a brilliant operator. But then definitely in the back of my mind, there was a little bit of,
you're right.
Should you go back? Is that the right thing to do? And the first 6 months was tough.
What did you go back as bars director?
Head of bars it was then, yeah, because we were just UK at that stage.
Right.
And there was quite a lot of people who'd been there for a long time who liked the drinks that we served, and they were good. The drinks weren't bad. They were kind of a bit of a mishmash of sort of Nick Strangeway historical style, and we had quite a lot of excellent milk and honey people, so quite classic, but then trying to be a bit more modern in some ways. It was just it wasn't like that coherent. And we had some really talented people working there. So a guy called Adam Montgomery, who's now equal parts unbelievable bar manager. Among many others, but there wasn't someone in charge. I think that was what it needed. So Will and Hugh and Tim, who run the company, they know loads about food. They're incredible operators. They care about drinks, but cocktails is not their world. So it was a little bit out. It felt a bit out of date, and it just needed sort of upgrading. It needed a little bit of vision, dare I say it, just someone to kind of go, right, this is what we're doing. And we spent a bit of time with Stu Bale and those kind of people, just kind of updating everything, glassware styling, all that kind of stuff. And to be honest, the first stuff we did for the first year or so was a little bit of copying what else was cool at the time. I think that we sort of needed to drag ourselves into the 2020s. And it's only sort of in the last few years I feel like we've sort of found our thing that's uniquely ours. But
and what is that exactly?
I mean, I think somewhere my ideal scenario would be, I like the idea that when someone sees a Hawksmoor sign, they know they'll go and get the best martini in town. Mm-hmm. That would be that's a simple thing to aim for. And I think it's something that I personally feel like we're not far away from.
They're so good. I had 3 of them last night, and they really were delicious.
But that's like a nice way to start. And then I think yeah, sort of we have a sort of small group of drinks that are kind of Hawksmoor classics that I think are well loved. Shaky Pete's, etc.
Let's talk about Shaky Pete's.
Oh my God, yeah. Do you know how much sugar's in one? I always say that to people. I was like, if you could see the recipe, there's so much fucking sugar in there. They are good.
Whenever I don't tend to order it, but whenever I'm there with Harper, which actually I am there with Harper,
It's a fucking good drink, right?
Always, as soon as we've not even sat down, he's ordered Shaky Pete's.
Do you know what? I haven't had a whole one for about 10 years.
It's quite an undertaking.
Yeah, it's a really good hangover cure.
Yeah.
In fact, I should probably
Should have brought some.
I still hadn't bought anything. It's a good hangover cure. I like
ginger, right? The ginger's great.
Americans just don't order it.
Don't they?
They just do not order it. We had to put Irish whiskey in instead of gin to see if they could tempt them, and still won't order it.
For people who've not had it, describe what.
Oh, sorry, of course. So we're not just like yabbering away, right? So like it's a Manhattan or something.
Yeah.
So Shaky Pete Geary, who was he was sort of early days Hawksmoor kind of head bar, ran the bars, was notoriously quite often hungover. And he created this drink as a kind of brunch hangover cure, and it's gin, like freshly pressed ginger syrup, so like with a bit of spicy kick, lemon juice, blended, but not blended to like a kind of frozen margarita, kind of just made a bit kind of frothy, and then topped up with London Pride Ale, served in a frozen tankard. And they come to the table, they look all kind of frothy and delicious. Do you know what?
It looks like the Homer Simpson beer.
It does, the Duff, the Duff. When you like with a wider lens now, looking at that drink is fucking genius.
Yeah.
But I remember when I came back, I was like, right, we are changing the entire list apart from this one drink. And so it's always been the hangover. But now I think with a sort of revisionist lens, I'm like, yeah, it's great. And I'm really happy that it stayed. And I think it's one of the very few, in fact, apart from the Sour Cherry Negroni, is the only one that you really see kind of copied by other people.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one, Shaky Pete's, because it is kind of a modern classic.
Yeah,
isn't it? Obviously, it's being served in 14 restaurants around the world.
Yeah, it's not an espresso martini or a penicillin, but maybe it's in the rung below that.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
And it's a genuinely delicious drink. And it's because a bit weird. It's like gin, beer, ginger. I mean, those aren't necessarily natural bedfellows, but they do really work.
Really works. And also, I mean, I will give you the recipe. It's 35 mils of gin, 50 mils of ginger syrup.
Oh, right.
2-to-1 ginger syrup. Yeah. 50 mils of lemon juice. Like it's like that is insane.
It is, yeah.
I mean, when you hear them, it's one of those ones a bit like the Trinidad Sour. You're like, nah, fuck off. That's not gonna work. And then you have it, and you're like,
extra zero.
Actually, yeah. But weirdly, it does. It really does. And it's like it's the one you can see. Hawksmoor Life, as people who come in a lot, it's the one that the people still ask for, and it will be on our menus forever. Like it's a kind of.
You sell more martinis than any other cocktails?
I definitely think so. Since Martini Bar, I mean, the numbers of like batshit. I think since we opened in November, we sold 20,000 martinis.
Whoa.
Which is insane. And I think really a testament, because I was always a bit skeptical as to whether they had some mass appeal. And, you know, you go to all of our other restaurants and they are sort of mid to lower table in terms of what we sell, but they're, don't know what it is, but probably because it says Martini Bar. But like, everyone tries them, and I've become really passionate about trying to create kind of gateway martinis, because there's a lot of people, I go there quite a lot with my wife's friends, for example, who like the idea of drinking martinis, but just like find a dry martini a bit much. And so trying to create drinks that kind of bring people into the drink. And, you know, people like the idea of sitting there with a martini, but quite often it is just a bit much.
Yeah.
So yeah, that has been very gratifying, kind of seeing that.
How does Shaky Pete's rank on the? It's
dropping a little bit, and it's fine. It always kind of does okay. Our biggest selling drink worldwide is the Sour Cherry Negroni, by a country mile. Yeah. And that drink was sort of a weird lockdown baby, because we had an Americano and we were trying to put it into bottles to sell. So I was like, let's make a Negroni, and then put it on the menus. And it was just like, poof.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's, I mean, hundreds of thousands a year across everywhere, which is, yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, obviously Negroni is a very, very popular drink.
Yeah.
I'm surprised the martini, but maybe that's going to change.
Yeah, I mean, martinis are still pretty niche here. I think like we drink them, and we kind of used to bartenders drink them, and people but I think like if you ask the average person on the street, that's not their jam yet.
Yeah.
It's a way to go.
Yeah.
But it's getting there. It is getting there. Determined.
Yes.
to turn the entire country into martini swilling alcoholics.
So Boston is next.
Boston's next.
How's that coming along? When's it due to open?
We're opening on September 8th. Current plan. Feels like at the moment it's on track. We have a huge terrace. It's one of our first places, kind of a proper kind of outdoor area. Boston's an interesting city. I've spent a little bit of time there. I'm going back for quite a bit this summer. it's probably the most sort of British feeling American city I've been to. You know, it's not really grid system. It's kind of it's quite kind of old sort of 17th century architecture, and it's very beautiful.
I mean, for good reason, right? It was sort of one of the first sort of big cities that was colonized over there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got that vibe. It's got like a real sort of tough Irish Italian, like sort of working class undertone. It's cool. It's interesting. I love visiting new places, and it's definitely got its own thing going on.
I was quite surprised to see cobbled streets there. That's not something you come across
totally, right?
in America very much.
And like lovely little grids. I went to I had like a free day there. I went and walked around Harvard, which is a bit of a buzz. Yeah, interesting though.
Yeah.
What did you make of it?
Well, it's got that sort of preppy Harvard.
Yeah.
You know, went in the Harvard store and bought some Harvard flags and things like that because it just felt like the right thing to do. But yeah, it's not quite the same as say like Cambridge.
No, it feels a bit newer. It feels like a Bovis Homes.
Yeah,
Cambridge.
Yeah, it doesn't have that sort of grandeur of those places. It feels a little bit more low key and modern. But nice enough. And I went to MIT as well, which was
that's more your vibe, isn't it? You're more of an MIT guy, aren't you? I'm Harvard. You're actually who am I kidding? I'm Boston University, I think.
No, but it's an interesting town. Have you been to the Cheers bar yet?
No, I did walk past it.
Yeah. But then that's all you need to do because the inside is not the Cheers bar. It's only the outside.
I walked past it.
It's a basement bar and it's kind of quite small and stuffy. It's nothing like the film set they use in the show.
It's basically a sports bar.
The outside shot is the same.
No, it's cool. I like there's a beautiful the north end, which is the kind of really kind of old part, I guess. It's like and it's got very sort of strong Italian American vibe going on there, and everyone drinks this. The big cocktail is a pistachio martini, which is vodka, pistachio liqueur, like a kind of cream liqueur, Bailey's blue curacao.
Oh my god!
And then a scoop of pistachio gelato.
That sounds sweet.
It is very sweet. But
wow, that just sounds like a boozy ice cream.
It really is. But you walk past and everyone's fucking necking these pistachio martinis. Wow. So we're gonna try and do a slightly more elegant version of that.
See but that's dangerous, isn't it? Because if people come in to Hawksmoor and they see this riff on a pistachio martini and it's not a sickly sweet thing.
I mean, so I think we might do an espresso. We're working on an espresso martini with a pistachio butter vodka, and like a little bit of hazelnut, and then like a matcha, because espresso martinis also mean it's like a big espresso martini town.
Yeah, pistachio and coffee go well together as well.
Delicious. Yeah. So I'm excited. We're going to do sort of the vibe for the drinks there is going to be kind of elevated sports bar drinks. I think is the so we're going to do a great tequila sunrise and a really good strawberry daiquiri and that kind of thing.
Because the typical Hawksmoor interior design has a lot of that kind of wood paneling thing. It would only need a few sort of like sports flags and things.
Well, we're gonna have I don't know if there's anyone who's been told this, someone been breaking well exclusive. We're going to have screens behind the bar. Because in Boston, you kind of have to.
Otherwise people just don't
what's wrong with your bar? Well, in Chicago, we got told by loads of people that they were like, we're not coming here because we can't watch sports. So it's a first. I don't hate it. You know, I think it might be quite fun to have a Hawksmoor martini and watch the game. Yeah. What's not to love?
I guess sitting at the bar as well I like sitting at bars anywhere I am, but it's in America, it's kind of a must. Right? You've got to sit at the bar. And the bar to be sufficiently big.
Is it?
As well.
And also I've always thought one of my favorite things about the States was you always meet like real interesting characters sat at the bar, particularly on your own, particularly if you're, you have an accent. They're like,
yeah. They're like, they start talking to you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's American bars are very convivial spaces. It's not like in a lot of pubs here where you kind of approach the bar and stand there with your pint and if you even
get conspiracy theory, maybe. That's a real southeast England thing, I think. You mate, do you know?
Just someone stood there just busting to give you a conspiracy theory.
Come on, Sammy.
Come on with it.
Mate, do you know? Thank God. You see those chemtrails?
Oysters are quite a big thing in Boston, aren't they?
Seafood, so chowders, oysters, seafood in general. So I feel like seafood in the UK is expensive, and it definitely feels like very much like a quite a specialist thing and something that kind of people go to a specific place to go to, whereas it's definitely more woven into the.
Yeah.
People eat a lot of oysters there. Like
Yeah.
it's big.
'Cause
Yeah.
there's all those.
Lobs-
There's a
lobster
couple of like,
rolls.
historic oyster and sort of oyster and stout houses or whatever.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
oyster
yeah,
porter
yeah.
houses and the
And people do
part of
oyster.
that.
Well, oyster have more like oyster happy hours, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like lobster obviously is a big thing, like lobster rolls and stuff. Yeah, so I think it's like it's cool. It's an interesting city. I'm really like I'm always fascinated to go to a new place like that and just see what the kind of the sort of microculture is in these places.
Yeah.
But yeah, excited about it.
I mean, do you envisage there's going to be like 30 Hawksmoors in 10 years' time?
That's above my pay grade, I think. But I mean, I think ideally, we'd definitely do a few more. There's been, there's talk of a couple more in the States potentially. I don't know. In the UK, I think maybe there's less opportunities. They're big restaurants and they're quite expensive restaurants, so you have to be able to sustain that as a busy place over the course of a year. But yeah, it's we're sort of growing tentatively, I think would be the best way of putting it.
Are there any other projects you're working on? Anything else?
Hawksmoor.
Well, Hawksmoor or otherwise. I mean, any collaborations you're doing with brands or anything like that? I mean, I know you've done sort of stuff with brewers before, and you've had whiskies in the
We've done
past.
whiskies, yeah. I think that one of the things I always realise is like lots of people want to do these collaborations. They don't always necessarily work out that well for you. They're better for them, and you quite often on the hook. There's a couple of things I probably can't talk about now that we might be working on, but we're doing this summer, for example. We're going to be doing a lot. We're trying to take some UK bars, London-based bars, over to the US to kind of showcase them a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think, as I said earlier on about Chicago, we really want to reinforce our Britishness in the UK, and so we took Satan's Whiskers over last year for like a little tour. We're doing something with 3 Sheets in a few weeks in Boston, Chicago, and New York, which will be really fun. And yeah, just kind of trying to fly the flag. There's a real kind of between New York and London anyway. I think a real mutual appreciation of each other's bar scenes. But I think in the other cities, it's nice to be able to go and say this is what we do. Because it can be quite different.
Anything we haven't covered?
Do you want to tell everyone what award you won yesterday, Tristan? I know you're dying.
I've been alluding to it, and I've been so kind of humble about the whole thing. By not divulging. Yes, I won Fortnum & Mason Drinks Book of the Year last night.
Very, very nice. Are you up against some stiff competition?
Yeah. Oh God, now I'm going to have to remember all the books I was up against. So probably
we talked about it.
Yeah.
I remember they were very stiff competition and very well done.
Thank you. No, it's great. I mean, this Agave Safari is the book that won, and it's the 9th book in the series. I've just finished writing.
Like we Harry Potter, haven't we?
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate the Scottish accent there as well. That perfect. It's the 9th book in the series, just on the 10th, which is Vodka. That's going to be out at the end of this year.
Very excited about that. As a vodkaman myself.
Yeah. Well, you're match bar.
Yeah.
So you got to do really. And so it's nice. It's been shortlisted. I've had books shortlisted for awards before, but never actually won any. And so it's nice. And I think, if I may say, it is the best book I've written.
Probably the most fun to do as well.
Probably definitely the most fun in terms of travel. I mean, there's been some fun ones. Rum was very fun as well. But it's nice to have it recognised. As you said earlier, awards are great when you're winning them. And
I was going to say the thumbnail for this should be awards are sick.
Here's why awards are so good. Yeah.
No. Award-winning author Tristan Stevenson.
Exactly. I like awards. I'll tell you one thing, it will sell more books.
Great.
That kind of thing, like that sticker or whatever that goes on the front of the book, or the chain on Amazon, the title will now say Fortnum & Mason drink book of the year 2026. So that's lovely. And
better Christmas presents for Dex and Robin this year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've actually had one book, I won't say which one it was, that was nominated for an award quite a few years ago now. And I didn't think it deserved to be nominated.
Yeah.
I think it was a book that was written at the right time, and it was nominated because of the subject matter.
Was this your erotic fiction?
Yeah. It was written at the right time. And So I felt I had mixed feelings about that, and certainly if I'd won the award, I would have had even more mixed feelings about it. But this book, I think, it really deserved it, and I'm glad it won. And interesting, Millie Milliken, who you know
Very well, yeah.
she was nominated for Best Debut Drinks Book, and she won as well. So that means the 2 drinks book categories, and this includes wine, includes all spirits, beer as well, were won by Agave Spirits. Yeah,
Well, that shows where the interest. I mean, it is like something that clearly is on the rise in terms of people's interest in it.
Yeah.
I think I always do my way of noticing what is sort of macro trending, I guess, is when I go and see my sister, who's a few years older than me, but like she's sort of interested in food and drink, and her husband as well is like super,
but not in the industry. So
not in the industry at all,
business,
and
yeah.
definitely not. They wouldn't own one of your books, not because they're not very good. Maybe the erotic fiction one, but like his switch from his drinks trolley went from gin to tequila about a year ago, and now it's sort of ever growing. So it really does show. It'd be lovely if the supermarket shelves started to reflect that a little bit more.
Reflect that, yeah, totally. I mean, and I think just the breadth of tequilas and mezcals and Martinis that we get in this country, it'd be nice to see that broaden and be a bit more representative, rather than being, especially with mezcal, as we mentioned, as stylized as I currently see it is. There's a bar opened in Stoke Newington called Sorbito.
Okay, no.
It's owned by the guy that owns it's a mezcal bottler called Sin Gusano. No word.
Yeah.
And they bottle.
I can speak Spanish.
Yeah.
There might be people listening.
Oh yeah, shit.
It's not just me and you.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And their mezcals are amazing. Really, really good stuff. Everyone should buy theirs. But I've not been to the bar yet. It only opened not even 6 months ago, and I don't get out to Stoke Newington very much.
Well, as I said to you yesterday, you next time you're down, you come to us. We're not far away, so
you're up that way.
we're up that way. So
Yeah,
you can come and crash.
Yeah,
crash
well, let's
ours.
do it. Let's go to that bar.
I'm sure my wife will be delighted when we rock in at 3 o'clock in the morning. Sin Gusano does.
Sin Gusano out of our eyeballs.
Yeah.
So there are some great products available. I think there needs to be more of that. And I think that maybe these book awards and the fact that there's a lot of great books being written around the subject now will help to sort of broaden people's perspective on it, and sort of take it from being something that's like this sort of novelty tequila, I'm talking specifically about mezcal, whole novelty tequila, to something that actually requires a little bit more thought and investigation to appreciate it properly, what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be backed up by people being able to get hold of the stuff quite easily, right?
Yeah, that's it. You need all of the different sort of parts of the puzzle need to come together. You need the education, you need the people on the front line actually selling it, and then you need the supply of the good stuff, and it needs to be made in the first place and exported. So yeah, cool. Shall we wrap up there?
Let's do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, mate. Great to see you as always.
Yeah, you too.
Cheers.